Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is Cee, certified brewhead.
And I am Nathan from NathanDoesBeer.
And welcome to episode 153 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast Adjunct series. Nathaniel, we are bringing it to the hometown tonight.
Yes, we are in the hammer tonight.
You're damn right we are. And right before we talk about that, actually, I just want to mention these things right here. So we have had BAOS merch that people would have seen Nate is wearing right now, and I am wearing this right now. And basically, we have this website. It's just like on this print-on-demand site called spring.com. So the link is always in the description of basically every YouTube video since we did it. And the other day, I was like, oh, my hat was getting all like, I'd worn it so much at festivals. It was all kind of like getting mashed up. And I looked into getting it cleaned, and it was as much to get a new one as it was to get it cleaned. And then I realized that like they'd taken the hat link down. So then I remade it, and I actually got hats in multiple different colors now. And it's so much more fire. So I made them in camo, gray, and then this one in black. And you can see I put the little BOS logo on the top of the back of the snapback there. They have that on these as well. And they also say get it in you, where before they didn't say get it in you because they had like stricter rules on the file for the embroidering. But yeah, these are on the website. It's once again, link in description of the YouTube video. The hats are sick. I'm so happy with them. They came out cool because it was cool having black, but now we've got these other ones, and we don't really push merch or anything like that. It's not a massive thing for us because it's just a little side thing. But if there's a bunch of t-shirts, I ordered some. They take a while. That's the only thing. The hats actually took like 5 days, but the t-shirts and stuff is probably like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's not that bad, I guess. But because they print them and then send them in sort of order. So I'm excited to get all the different merch. So if anyone's interested in that and want to look drippy for the holiday season, I would highly recommend that. So yes, in Hamilton, we haven't spoken to all the breweries yet, which is something on my list to do. Just, being based out here, I think it's super cool to chat with the breweries in town because we have a really vibrant scene. And it's really cool to sort of get to know the stories from everybody. And I've been to most of the places here. And this brewery, now I've been there twice. We were hanging out the other day last week, catching up. And these guys are like legendary here in Hamilton. They're hugely popular and have a great reputation. Really, really cool tap room and make some of the most awarded beers in the country. So, mate, I'm excited to get into it, Nathaniel. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, guys, please welcome Brad Clifford from Clifford Brewing in the building. Welcome, sir.
How's it going?
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It is an honor and a pleasure, man. Thank you for hanging out. Long time coming. I know we'd spoken for many years, and I think we were talking about doing this back in the day when we were still doing it in person. Probably must have been 2019 or something from memory. So it's
2020 or maybe it was 19. Yeah,
that's the only reason I say 2019 because it could have been early 2020. Yeah,
it's all kind of a blur. Yeah,
It truly is, man. But thank you so much for hanging out, and super excited to get into the beers and to get into some stories here and hear a lot more about what you guys have been doing and your experience in Hamilton and the whole thing. So, first things first, shall we crack a brew?
Let's do it.
absolutely.
Alrighty. Tell us what we're starting with, brother. Whoops, wrong way.
I figured we'd start with East Hamilton Lager.
Boom. Look
Yeah.
at that.
Yes, you got the East Ham.
Oh,
At the
yeah.
brewery, we call it either East Ham or EHL. Usually
EHL.
just- yeah.
I mean, that
I
makes
like
sense.
East Ham.
I like East Ham. EHL's kind of cool too. It's like a like IPL, like a style or something.
Yeah. So
Yeah, man. Tell us about this bad boy.
EHL, essentially, it's a German Pilsner.
Okay.
A German Pils that I'd been brewing. Actually, one of the first beers I ever made, or early days of brewing, was when I was a home brewer, I liked to brew lagers. And the German Pilsner was one that I regularly brewed.
Right.
And it's a super, super simple recipe. Really, you're just looking at like German Pilsner base malt and Hallertau hops. Lots of Hallertau middle fruit hops.
Hell yeah.
And just a super nice, crisp, easy drinking pills. German
Beautiful.
pills, because it's got
Nice.
that little bit more sulfate bitterness to it.
Okay.
The big reason to do a German pills is really the water here in Ontario is better suited to that
Oh,
style.
really?
It's a lot more difficult to make a softer, like a Czech style pills.
And what's so it's specifically just water chemistry is the main reason?
Yeah, that, and I just like German pills.
There
What
you
is
go.
the main difference between a German and a Czech pills?
The hop additions,
Hop
the malt
additions.
and hop. Yeah,
Okay.
just the ingredients, really. It's the same
Okay.
brewing.
Process.
Largely, well, when you get into Czech pilsners, you get into decoction mashes, and so there are differences in that respect.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
yeah,
Beautiful.
so the East Hamilton Lager, it was actually one of the first beers that was actually brewed in Hamilton, because my earlier recipes were all brewed in Toronto when I lived in Toronto and started there. We'll get into that later, but when I got the brewery on Nash Road North, I was like, all right, like the first beer needs to be an easy drinking beer that probably, would have more appeal to a broader audience in Hamilton. And then I thought, oh, what if, we put Hamilton in the name? And then what if we put the Hamilton skyline on the can? Well, not exactly the part of the skyline that's, really, the most appealing part of Hamilton to some, the
Yes.
industrial Stelco skyline.
With
The
sick,
Hamilton that most people see when they drive over the Burlington Bridge.
yes.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Burlington
a little
Highway.
flame thing too. I love it. Gentlemen, first things first. Cheers.
Cheers.
Get that in you. Hell yeah. Yeah, man. Great malty nose. Super bready. Balanced. Smooth.
Yeah.
Nice and spicy. Like that kind of like a little peppery in there.
Yeah, the spiciness from try to use Hallertau Mittelfrüh. Mittelfrüh hops. Actually, I don't know if you heard the hops in really low yields in Europe over the last year. So Mittelfrüh is actually quite difficult to get. We have to contract it, and there's only a small amount of it available.
Oh.
So everyone, it's kind of funny. It's because like the hops like Fuggle and Mittelfrüh and Hallertau, everyone's fighting to get those now. Meanwhile, there's piles of Citra and Simcoe and all those hops that you couldn't get with Galaxy. They're everywhere now.
Right.
Right.
But we have to contract the boring hops that nobody wanted 5 years ago.
What's up with that?
Yeah, it's just the hop shortages, the yields over in Europe.
So it's just the yield. That's the only reason. It's
yeah,
not
the yields. There's not enough of it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I was thinking on top of that, the maybe the popularity or increased popularity of the style.
The combination of those two, yeah. I'm sure with the rise in the popularity of lagers, now there's a lot more people buying those hops. Back like, say, 2012, 14, 15, like they were the cheaper hops. There was plenty of them, right?
Right. Interesting.
So it's just funny how the tables have turned. Like I was talking to another brewer about that. We were actually laughing. Like, who would have thought you'd be having to contract these hops? They're sought after now. Where the hops that we all like, Citra is everywhere. You can get Citra. Where there was a time where Citra was like really difficult to get your hands on.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Was it, how many years was it a low yield? Was it just this recent harvest that was low, or last year, I guess?
Last year, so I guess it was the 22 was the first year. 21 or 22 where there was the really low yield, where basically like we contract our hops actually through Hops Connect. So Bob Latimer, who's the guy I buy hops from, have for 10 years. He's kind of a legend in the industry himself. He came to me and basically said, like, you're going to want to contract Mittelfrüh, like right now, if you want some for next year.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, it would probably make sense if you're doing stuff like this regularly. This particular beer has that one. Would you consider this like a flagship of sorts?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or
East
core?
Hamilton. Yeah. It's become the flagship up there with Pinball, Porter. In fact, we sell probably our biggest seller in Hamilton. Absolutely.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it on draft a lot around?
Yep, it
town?
is.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was like one of the first beers on draft at the brewery. We've always had it on draft. Draft like some pubs around the city, some bars. Uh,
Dope.
yeah. But then
Okay.
we started making the chain link Vienna lager, the Crusher, the Czech lager. So now there's got some competition with other lagers that we make.
Hey, that's good. Balances out the portfolio a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it's I think it's great that this is like that this is a mainstay because this is fantastic. Uh, I'm also getting like a slight bit of kind of lemon rind bitterness to it, and
Mm.
also just finishing super dry. It's like I was parched before like before this, and and this is just drying out my palate so much that I just keep taking another sip. I can't help it.
I love it.
Yeah, it does have a pretty, the finishing gravity is pretty low on it.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, we use
Slaps.
a German house yeast, a pretty common German strain that we use for pretty much all our lagers.
That's great, man.
And it's very versatile. Usually we keep repitching it, keeping it going for like sometimes as many as 8, 10 generations
Oh wow.
because we've almost always got a lager going. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
I, like
Well, I was going
go.
to say when I was a home brewer, actually, when I started out, like a lot of people, lagers were kind of my thing. I love brewing lagers because you just brew them like any other beer. It's really like, people think, oh, it must be really difficult to make a lager. Well, it's not. It's just another beer. But the secret's in temperature control, right?
Mm.
So, and when you're a home brewer, yes, temperature control can be very difficult. Uh, but I used to find creative ways of like putting the carboy in like a bath of like ice and stuff.
Ah, I've
Yeah.
seen me and my friend, my old co-host Scott. He used to we used to homebrew together, but he had the setup, so he turned like one of the like just a regular bar fridge into a kegerator. So like you drill the thing in the top and you have the tap out of it, but he was able to put his like the carboys in the fridge and then have that like you hack the electronics to make a temperature control type of
Yeah.
thing.
And
Is
set
that
it around
some?
like 14 Celsius. A lot of people think too, like you need to ferment lagers. Well, like, and you can, but you can ferment lagers as warm as like 16 Celsius and they still turn out really nice, really crisp.
Right.
Uh, we tend to like to start them out like around 14 and a half, fifth, then 16, 17. And then with near fermentation, we just let it warm right up to ambient temperature, 20 Celsius or so, which is
Interesting.
really good for essentially a diacetyl rest. It'll make sure the yeast consumes any diacetyl.
Gotcha.
That,
Diacetyl. I've
that
heard that.
butterscotch,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it's
yeah.
what you don't want in your beer.
No. I've
Yeah.
heard that term diacetyl rest. So that is when the yeast eat it so that there's none of it remaining in the beer, which is the off flavor.
Yes, because fermentation creates diacetyl, but then the yeast will then consume it as well. So at
Gotcha.
warmer temperatures, they'll begin to consume it.
Gotcha. That's great.
So yeah, so the secret with a good lager is really temperature control, but we like to give it a big long diacetyl rest to make sure there's no chance of any diacetyl. Obviously, trying it along the way a lot
Right.
before we cold crash it. We essentially just drop the temperature and then lager it, let it sit in the
Okay.
tank.
How long would you lager it for?
It depends what our inventory is like. I'm just kidding. ideally, ideally 4 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
We've lagered some as long as 6 to 8 weeks. And yeah, so I'd say the East Hamilton, we try to do at least 4 other lager, but it's been 5 or 6 at times.
Is there a point of like diminishing returns? I think we were talking about this recently, Nate. I think with True History, weren't we? About the
That's right.
like, is there a point that you've discovered, and maybe this is varies brewery to brewery or even beer to beer, as far as like if you let it go past X number of weeks, there's no real difference. Like there's like an optimal type of thing.
That's a very good question. I haven't really like done the research into it. Really, I don't. I would say probably once you get much past like the 4 to 5 weeks, you need a pretty trained palate to really detect it. I don't think the average person would would probably notice. Uh,
Hmm.
but it might be one of those things that's kind of more subconscious, right? I don't know. This one just tastes better, right? Because it's that much lager that much longer.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, I don't think there's, from what we were talking, I don't think there's sort of some sort of agreed upon like X amount of weeks is the perfect time, because maybe a Vienna would be different than a Dunkel or a Schwarzbier or German lager, etc. So I don't know if there's. I think it's an interesting question because it came up. We're like, I wonder if there is, because it
I
usually.
think it definitely, yeah, it changes with the style of beer because obviously, say like a Dunkel, like the dark malt in there changes the flavors. Uh, yeah, because again, there's so many a Bock, for instance. That all that caramel malt and like caramel flavor, but probably a good, yeah, like a little longer, a few more weeks. Like 8 is probably going to taste a little better than 6. But then
Mhm.
once you go past 8 weeks, probably like that's 2 months. I don't think you want to lie.
Yeah.
Most brewers can't leave it in their tank longer than 2 months.
Yeah, it is a long time for a beer that's sort of going to be crushed pretty quickly,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
yeah, that needs to be kind of
And it
pumped out.
will, like the beer will develop in the can too, right? Like once a beer is packaged, as long as it's packaged very carefully, under like a bed of CO2 and very low dissolved oxygen, then that beer in the can is just another vessel, right? Like I look at it like that's your primary vessel, your secondary, your bright, and your third is the can. And the
Mm,
can, as
Hmm.
long as it's nice and cold, the beer is just going to get better in the can.
good point. Yeah, I
Yeah,
never thought about that.
it gets better for a while, and then of course if the can's left out warm or probably after a couple months, the beer it's hit its prime, and now it's going down. Right? It's not.
Right.
Yeah.
For a lager, what would be the average amount of time do you think that they're good for?
Oh,
Because like New England IPAs, like we talk about this a bunch. Like I like them fresh. I like them super fresh. Usually 1 to 3
oh yeah.
weeks is good. Some people tell me I'm crazy, and they're like, "Oh man, I'll drink a 2 month old New England IPA, no problem." But I prefer not to do that. But lagers, I've noticed. I had one the other night, actually, on the weekend, that I got in April in Virginia, and it was great.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
fine.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what, 6 months old, 7 months.
yeah. I was gonna say even I've had one that's like 10 months old, even like approaching a year old. That's still perfectly drinkable. Still tastes great. Now that's largely because if it's well packaged with a very low dissolved oxygen, because when you're packaging, there's always, and even when you're moving beer from tank to tank, there's always like a little bit of oxygen pickup, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
parts per billion is what we measure it in. And that any little bit of oxygen will begin to degrade the beer, whether it's in a tank transfer or in the can. So your packaging makes a huge difference on how the freshness of the product will be for
Gotcha.
long term.
Right.
No, that makes sense. Um, Totally. I don't know why all these little small questions about that. I've always just wondered. I feel like once again, same with the resting time. There was no sort of agreed upon time for the optimal. When a lager would maybe start to not be the greatest. Because I know, if you look at like the macros, they'll have like they don't have canned or whatever or package date. They'll have like a best before date, and
Yeah,
usually that's
that's
like a year or two, probably because of the preservatives and stuff in those type of products, I imagine.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, like a beer that we package or anyone packages and it goes and sits on the LCBO on an LCBO shelf or any shelf
Oh, yeah.
warm
God,
for
it's
a month
awesome.
or so.
Yeah.
That's not going to help the beer.
No.
But people also think, oh, if it gets warm, I can't drink it. I've heard that. It's like, no, it's fine to be warm for a little while. Just chill it. It'll still be good.
Yeah.
But the longer it sits warm, the more it's not going to be. It's almost like the beer is never going to be. Well, it can be bad, but it's a scale, right? And
Yeah.
you want it at 10, but I mean, if it goes down to 7, it's still a pretty good beer. Uh,
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I wonder if it's on the palate of the drinker too. like maybe you would be pickier about your own beers, for example, and you would know the difference between a fresh month-old product and a 6-month-old one. You'd probably be able to tell, I'd imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it's
Well, we don't do this a lot, but we probably should start doing it. I know some breweries, like, they purposely hold back beers like from every production run, and then they do a tasting of them, where they taste each batch and kind of see how how it's holding up, basically.
Do you guys do that?
Sometimes. Sometimes, honestly, when we're entering beers and like for awards, there's been times where, oh, we got 3 batches of porter, let's try them all, pick the best one.
Interesting. Do you ever
We've
notice?
got one, and honestly, often the older batches, the batch that's 3 or 4 months old, is the best tasting one.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
Just the way the malt it's developed and aged in the can, because again, the can is just another vessel for the beer, and it's kept cold.
Right.
And just the malt flavors of kind of the aging process, as you know, similar to barrel aging, but without any barrels. It's the reason the reason we use cellar beer, right, is to see how it tastes. And I know some breweries, what do they call that? Vertical flights, where they
vertical.
There was a brewery in Portland that used to do like what is it? Dog something. It doesn't really matter, but they did like 4 or 5 years, and you could order every year and try it side by side. I think that was a barley wine, actually. So a beer that's made to be aged.
Right. No, that makes sense. I know you guys did one, Nate, with Noah, and me and him did one. Like the very first time I did one was on the pod. Like 2017. Our friend is one of the main beer writers in Quebec, Noah Forrest from Beerism, and he brought over what's the dark saison from GDCL.
Isn't it like Nico something?
That's the one. That one, yeah.
I can't
like a Japanese
remember the whole name.
And we did like a 4-year vertical, but he had to drive, otherwise he would have brought more. So we just did 4. And I think you guys did that of Péché Mortel.
Yeah, we did a Péché Mortel at his place.
Yeah, that
would be a great beer to do it with.
Yeah, and the thing with those, you need buddies. You can't be doing them bad boys alone because like you said, they're all aged beers, so that means they're all typically large, the higher ABV, so like you need a bit of a party to bust that out. And I think verticals are awesome. They're super fun. I think it'd be fast. It's like, it must be tough to sell that, I guess, as a brewery, because I don't know if you're able to, like, how would you do a flight? You'd have to have a minimum 4 people, because if you're going to bust open a bottle, which I imagine they're not cans, probably bottles, pour them, but you know what I mean? Like, it'd probably be a pricey exercise for folks, but fun. Yeah. That's dope.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah, man. So do we want to, I know we sort of, we got a bunch of beers to get through. I'm really enjoying this, goddammit. Do we want to sort of move to the next one? Do you want to just finish this since we're close and then go to the next one? What are we feeling?
Yeah, why don't we, well, you know what? We can flip back a little bit. I feel like we should probably crack the next one and then get into Brad's beer story.
Okay, that works. So, because we sort of had a bit of an order, I mean, you guys did it when I was dealing with some tech stuff. Did you guys decide what the next one should be, or are we going to
we actually only picked out the first one. Brad, do you have a thought what we should crack open next?
Why don't we do Pinball Wizard?
Ooh, okay.
All right, let's do it.
Actually, Pinball kind of ties into the whole
the story.
Hell yeah.
Perfect.
So, yeah, because this has been one of the mainstays for about the longest, I think, right?
Yes, it has. Yeah.
Have you had this one, Nate?
I think I have had this one before, although it's been a few years since the last time I've had it.
Yeah, I'm not. Okay, that makes sense. I'm not sure. Oh, this says I haven't. How is that even possible? Maybe I just forgot to check stuff in, but it's okay. So this is an American pale ale at 5.7%. Love a good APA. Both Nathaniel and I are big fans of the style.
Yeah.
So this was this obviously the East Ham Lager is one of the original beers, like you said, the first main one that wasn't brewed in Toronto. Is that right? And it was the first one brewed out here.
Yeah, well, actually, I first brewed this beer at. I guess I came up with the name when I was, a home brewer. So this is going back around 2010, 2011. I was living in Toronto. That's kind of when I was still brewing beer just on my stove at home. I was living in a condo on Richmond Street.
Oh yeah.
By myself. I was single at the time, so I could turn my place into a mini brewery with no one taking issue with it.
I love it.
And the opportunity came up where I actually started. Well, I knew I wanted to do more with beer, basically, than just make it for myself or for friends' parties. And so the opportunity came up to brew at a small beer bar, basically, that was opening called Get Well in Toronto on Dundas Street. And one of the owners was kind of a friend that I'd made friends with at a beer club. And basically, he was looking to do something kind of cool. We were kind of trying to do what Barvola was doing at the time, where they made their own house ales, house beers. So I put together a small nano brewery, like a 2-hec brew system that we set up in the back of the bar. And that's where basically, I started making porter, Pinball Wizard, an English ale, even the German Pils. Basically just all the beers that I had homebrewed before. Right. So they were available there on tap for a couple of years. And I'd go in there and brew about once a week and spend another day or cleaning and doing stuff. So it wasn't my full-time job. I worked a full-time job. I actually used to work in the printing industry. I worked on Bay Street for a financial printer.
Oh, no way.
That's about as boring as it sounds. So.
When you were brewing at Get Well, were they Clifford branded beers or were they Get Well beers?
They were Get Well, yes.
Gotcha.
So they were not Clifford, but kind of the setup we had, it was like, Clifford Brewing was selling the beers to them, basically. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So basically, it was a partnership. It was a great way, a little stepping stone to be able to kind of, at the time I was just excited to make beer that would be sold in a bar, right? Someone could drink my beer, right?
Oh yeah, it's super.
So I've got the collector. Oh yeah, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
I dug up my collector's Pinball Wizard glass.
Ooh, that like the OG.
Oh, there you go.
That the original label?
Not many of these left.
That's awesome. Original label, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so part of the whole idea behind Get Well, actually, it was a pretty cool place because it had one of the first in Toronto to have the arcade bar. Mm-hmm. You go in, it's a bar, but they have the old school arcade games and pinball machines, and so that's where Pinball Wizard really fit in well too.
Okay,
it was just a cool name, and the Who never came after me for the name. So 10 years later,
is that? Excuse my ignorance. I'm not a rock dude. Is that like the Who the band, like from back in the day?
Oh okay. Yes, the Who. Yeah. Well, they did. Yeah, the Pinball Wizard. Yeah, and I'm not even a huge Who fan. I have a lot of respect for them. They're great, but I just like the ring of Pinball Wizard.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a dope name. Really quickly, what are the hops in this one?
Oh yeah, so pretty old school. Cascade, Columbus. Early renditions, I used Autumn. I haven't used that in a long time. Pretty much Citra now is the finishing hop. Okay. So Citra is not as old school. Now it's old school, starting to become.
Isn't that hilarious?
But yeah, Columbus, Cascade. Occasionally we'll use Centennial. Centennial's nice instead of the Cascade, or mix a little Centennial in. I'll admit, we play with the recipe a little bit. It's not like the porter where it's set in stone, the recipe. The Pinball is we're always tweaking it a little bit here and there.
Right.
Yeah, but it's all the old school C hops. Yeah,
Gotcha.
so
Interesting.
definitely Cascade is a must. Centennial. It's got that
Mm.
bitterness. It's got not overpowering, but it's got a nice crisp bitterness. It still has the maltiness too, right?
Mm.
American pale ale.
Yeah, definitely. Like a little bit of like sort of grapefruity vibes in there, but whilst it's sort of like herbal and grassy, like the bitterness is like it feels like more like pithy maybe
Hmm.
than
Yeah,
Yeah.
say like piney or dank or anything like that.
yeah,
It's super balanced and light, like 5.7. Is that what it was? Yeah, 5.7.
yeah.
Like
5.7, even 5.5 in that range, basically. It's
Mm.
actually pretty. It's quite similar to Crazy Canuck or Canuck Pale Ale, Great
oh
Lakes.
yes,
Yeah, yeah, it is similar for sure.
And that's when around that same time is when Great Lakes was really pushing the. Back then, I remember it was called Crazy Canuck.
I do
Yeah.
remember that, and it had that other can that didn't have the dude on it.
Yeah, it was a what did it have? Oh, it had a Canadian leaf. The leaf thing.
Yes, it was like the super old school Ontario shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, what am I trying to
Yeah,
say? Oh, like a Canadian goose on it, I think.
did it really? Oh my god, let me see if I can find it. That'd actually be hilarious. But yeah,
Yeah.
so oh man, Crazy Canuck. Yes, I remember that because I've always felt like when I reviewed the beers, they were like when I see them come up in like Facebook memories, I didn't always call them by the name of the. Yeah, there it is. You're right, the goose. It's like the red stripe down the middle
Yeah,
with
that red
white.
stripe. Yeah. I think
The
they had a
little
K car with that on it as well, which is pretty cool.
that would make sense.
But this is like
Yeah.
to kind of take you back. This was the time in Toronto, like when there wasn't really a big craft beer scene. Uh, Nothing like it is now. Like when I was just getting started, 2010, you had Duggan's Brewery, you had Granite, Say What, Barvolo. This was before Bellwoods opened.
That was 2012.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the exact same time that Get Well basically got started, around the same time. Yeah,
Gotcha.
because those guys were friends just down the road. I'd go over there with like kegs and can you wash a couple of kegs for me?
That's
I
awesome.
didn't have I didn't have a keg washer.
Well, yeah, okay, that's amazing. So yeah, I
And it
remember
was
we
like
would
two kegs. Like I just need two kegs washed.
just wash, please. And yes, and Duggan's was that we were talking about this the other day. Duggan's on Queen, and there was that other place around the time, and it was on like I want to say Victoria Street or something, and it became I forgot what it was originally. Then it became Batch Brewing, and then they didn't last, and then something else took over it. It's like it turned over like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, well, Duggan's was short lived, about a year and a half. And that's kind of part of my story too, because me and Mike are friends, and I started brewing with Mike around that time, like really just helping out in the brewery. Like I was kind of the annoying kid, like, hey, can I come help you? Can I, I'll wash a tank for free,
That's awesome though.
stuff
Hey,
like
gotta hustle.
that. And
I like that.
but that was kind of my first experience, like being around commercial brewing. But yeah, that place was short lived. That's for whatever reason, many reasons. That place
Yeah,
is kind of cursed, actually. That Victoria Street location, because then it was the Beer Academy, which the Beer
that's
Academy
what it
is
was.
actually, yeah, which
Yes.
is actually owned by Molson, because they had bought
Okay.
Creemore and they were making Creemore products in there.
Yes, we did one of our
They were
very first
selling,
podcasts out of there,
yeah.
and
And
it was
actually,
the same place. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Stephen Rich, I think it was Stephen Rich, like he was the first brewmaster there. He went on to then work for Cowbell.
Oh,
He's not with
okay.
them anymore. And then when it switched hands and became, then I think Andrew Bartle worked there for a while
Yes, he
too.
ran Batch,
Yes, he ran
and then
Batch.
they moved to like Newfoundland and opened a brewery, and I think that called Church or something, and then that didn't work, and now he's back out here, and because I knew his wife, and she worked for a brewery here. Now I forgot who, Big Rock or something, and he's doing some other back and forth. Like it's pretty
Yeah,
like people are all over the. I get it. Like people are just moving around a lot. I forgot
yeah.
about that. Damn.
That's 775 Victoria. It was actually Michael Hancock. He's the one
Oh,
who,
from Side Lunch.
yes, well, previously, yeah.
Previously of Side
Yeah.
Lunch.
Yeah. But
He's a
yeah,
good dude.
Michael Hancock, so he built that brew pub and it was one of the first in the city. And it's still all the original equipment that's in there, like behind the glass. Actually, I
Wow.
was in Toronto about a month ago and it's still there. I went and had a look at it.
So it's like, what is it now? Just empty building?
Yeah, it's empty right now until someone takes it over again. Yeah, because batch closed. But that was probably, I think, in the late 80s. Oh, and interestingly, too, worked with him, his kind of apprentice assistant brewer was
Michael.
Matt O'Hara of BAOS.
Oh, Matty.
So Matt O'Hara first worked there at that location as well.
Gee, is Matt with BAOS still?
Well, BAOS got sold to Steam Whistle. So.
Yeah, I saw that. Is it? Yeah. But did he go with that? No, he didn't. Okay.
No, I haven't talked to him in many years, but
okay, I bump into him from time to time. I haven't seen him for a bit.
But just some of the history, kind of that building.
Yeah, man, that's deep.
Dixon, probably forgetting a few other people, but
yeah,
and then of course, so it's a really cool spot, that 75 Victoria.
Yeah, man. I hope someone does take that, but I think you're right in that it's cursed. Like, too much stuff being,
that building is massive. Now there's like, all the condos have gone in around it.
So it's probably a better time to open.
Yeah.
Because there's so many. Usually the breweries in the bottom of condos are a little odd, but then Northern Maverick on Bathurst there is still doing well.
That's the one I was just thinking of too. As soon as you said that.
Yeah, and the other one, it was Long Slice in, what's that area called?
Yeah.
It's just east.
Jimmy and John are the friends of mine. I've known them a long time.
Yeah, cool guys, man.
I've never had a chance to get over there and see that place. Yeah,
we did a pod when they were still building out the brewery. They were contracting at the time, but they had the bar. The bar was called like the Aviary or something, and then the brewery was being built. But I think that was like pre-pandemic. It must have been 2019, and. Yeah, what's that area called again? It's just next to the distillery, east of the distillery. It's like
Canary District or something.
There you go. Weird name, but yeah. That's like another good spot though, because there's like condos and there's all businesses in all the bottoms of all the condos in that whole area, which is sick. So it would be smart. That means there's possibility. I guess it's just, we say it all the time, in this economy, going and taking on the pressure of that lease at the Victoria Street one might be a little tough to fill at this particular moment in time, but it does sound like that's cool to see that there's an opportunity with. And you said that the equipment is still there, and you can see the equipment's still there.
It is, but honestly, when back 10 years ago, I looked at that equipment and was like, "Wow, this is so cool." I looked in the window at it, was like, I don't want to say it's junk. It's not junk,
but it's going to take some work.
It's well, it's just. It belongs at a museum, basically.
Right.
Is it the same stuff that Michael built the place out?
That Michael Hancock first put in there, over 20 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Wasn't
he
a side?
It over from, if you should have him on actually talk to him, because he would tell you all the history of. I remember him telling me once about that. They had to take the wall out to put it in and everything, and it's all custom made, brought over from Germany. It's beautiful. Like, it's a copper clad. It's really it's not very big though. Like, it's a pretty small. I think it's like 7 or 8 hectoliters.
Oh wow, okay, super small. So you'd have to.
Now to me, that's quite small.
Yeah, that'd be a little rough. What was I know we're getting off track, but what was that business originally when he started it? That wasn't Side Launch. That was something else, I guess.
No, it was called Growlers.
Oh,
yeah.
And they just.
I do remember going there once, like late 90s maybe, but that was really before I drank beer, but I wasn't really into craft beer at all.
Gotcha. So he was ahead of his time with that.
I didn't really appreciate it.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, we did a live podcast at BAOS Oktoberfest in like 20. You remember that? I think you were there, Nate, for like 2018 or something. Yeah. And Michael was on the panel, and that was when we were really into lactose. That was like our thing. And I remember fake arguing with him on the pod and stuff about because he doesn't like it because he's mad traditional. And now I think
I actually feel like Matt O'Hara was the one who was more mad about lactose than Michael was.
It was, yeah. I love those guys. They're just so funny because they're just like legendary Ontario beer dudes, and it was like funny to give them shit, but they were giving it right on back. It was a good time. Those are good cats, man. Yeah. We digress. So you were doing the beers out of Get Well for them on behalf of them, and I definitely heard about that back in the super. Like the name is super familiar, but I don't believe where was Get Well again. You said, oh no, you told me it was like Ossington and Dundas, right?
Oh yeah, it's still there.
Okay.
As far as I know, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I don't really keep in touch with those guys anymore, but I know that the bar's still there.
Okay.
I know that as soon as I left, they turned it into a pizza place in the back, which is probably a better suited thing.
Did you say that was and it's got the arcade stuff in the front?
Yeah, it's a pretty big long room.
I've been there before.
Really bar.
I know exactly.
Yeah, you probably have the arcade and then
the pizza at the back. It was a while ago, but I remember.
Yeah, where we like tiny, about the size of my office here, actually even smaller. That we put in a little brew system under a hood, 3 fermenters, and awesome. make the house beers there.
Interesting. Okay, that's very dope. So then you were doing that, and then. Where did that? So that was 20. I'm sorry. What did you say that was? 2012.
2012 to 2014, actually.
To 2014. Okay, so that was. Did you feel that sort of contributed to your like brewing chops at a larger scale, or not much, but slightly larger scale?
Not large scale, but yeah, just gave me the ability to play around with recipes and actually see people would come in the bar, try them, drink them, get a feel of what people liked.
And did that give you some like confidence to be
No, most people there drank PBR and didn't drink my beer.
God damn it. But did it make you, I could imagine that if it was your first exercise in this, that you'd be like, oh man, like, all right. I know that people like your stuff because of your the home brewing, you're inviting people and sharing it as you would, but it must have been a cool sort of first feeling, and maybe inspired you to keep going, to be like, all right, this business believed in me to do it, and now I'm making these beers and people are drinking it, even if it's not all of them, but they're moving through there. So just be, all right, I'm onto something with this beer making thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they weren't the biggest, coolest beers of the time. I mean, I guess back then
there wasn't cool beers, man. It was just West Coast IPAs.
Yeah, it was pretty much just West Coast IPAs, which I made some of those. But I was making lagers too and porters. I remember I made like a Dunkelbock or Dunkelweizen, or basically like beers that no one will buy or drink.
Back then, though,
bar in Toronto.
I kind of feel like I drank all sorts of weird shit back then, and had no there was nothing was like cool or uncool from memory. Like I don't recall thinking anything. I remember if I look at my Facebook memories come up with the beer selfies and all that stuff, I always feel like I'm like, oh wow, I was drinking that, and I always had I was learning, so I was like super open to drinking everything, and I think the only thing that was cool would have been like the palate wrecking Westies. Yeah, and that's kind of it. 2012 to 2014, I don't really think.
I do remember now. Saisons had their moments. Saisons were cool.
Yep.
That was
everyone had a saison, different farmhouse ales and Belgians.
Yeah,
Belgians. I remember that too, and like kind of around the same time, like basically pre 2015. Like Cee was saying, it was like before the New England IPA boom. It was really more a thing of anything that kind of did not didn't taste like your like your Molson Canadian or your Labatt Blue or whatnot. It was like, oh, what's this? A Belgian double? Okay, that's new, that's new and interesting to me. I'll give that a try. Like those are the kind of things that you would have been drinking like back in the day. See that that nowadays I don't know.
Yeah,
but you were probably but those would be kind of the things that you'd pull them off the LCBO shelf, like like Belgian double, or like this this farmhouse saison. Yeah, absolutely, I'll try that. That's new and different.
Exactly, different times.
I just thought I remember back then too. You kind of had to go to the LCBO to find stuff because
you did.
there wasn't a lot of tap rooms. It wasn't like everybody had a tap
And they were
room.
far. Like anything in the city, like the ones you mentioned, but even then, I don't think any of those ones were really packaging. Even Bellwoods, I don't think were packaging back in 2012. But like I moved to Montreal like 3 months after they opened. I was pissed because I lived on Ossington. It's like, God damn it, I just moved here and I'm just about to leave and they get a brewery. But I don't think many of them did package. So the only place we got beers was the LCBO, unless we did like, my friend and I would go out because he had a car. So we'd go to like Trafalgar or Nickelbrook and, places that are kind of out of the city to go and get stuff. Because it just wasn't much. Yeah. Very different time. And going to a brewery felt like, whoa, you're going to a brewery. Like, it was like a thing as opposed to like, it's a bar. It's no different to a bar, really. Yeah. It's a totally different time. So then when you wrapped up then in 2014, what is that noise? Can you guys hear that?
Oh,
like,
sorry. You might be hearing a vacuum in the background.
Oh, that's okay. I thought there was
here.
no problem at all. I thought that it was very like light. It's just I thought it was like interference in the line or something. That's okay.
No.
We're good. So then 2014 wrapped up at Get Well. What was the next step?
Yeah, so like anything, after doing that for a couple of years, it was a great experience, and I really appreciated the opportunity that to be able to do that. But I really wanted to do my own thing, get my beers outside of like one little bar, right?
Totally.
So without getting too much into it, I did have a little project with Michael Duggan. Me and him did a beer that was in the LCBO called the what was it called? 100 Mile Lager.
100 Mile Lager.
I got an old can of it right here.
Put it close to your face. Closer to your face.
Not very good. Okay, here we go.
Oh, I had that. And there was two different ones.
Yeah. We did the ale and the lager.
I remember.
Very originally named.
That's cool, man. I remember that shit. Yeah. Yes, let's go.
Well, I was
what
involved with Mike making those, so that was around 2013, 14, actually.
I distinctly remember that. That's great. Good for you.
With a bunch of hop grower friends, where we'd go out and help harvest the hops and then take it in. It was all brewed at Cool Brewery. So where because they were full cone hops, we'd hammer mill the hops basically to turn them into as much. We couldn't actually get them in cones, so kind of like powder to brew with. Which still is not a great way to brew with them because they plug up the heat exchanger.
I can see the powder all clunking up, like they wouldn't dissolve; it'd just clump.
Yeah. But those beers were those were really decent beers, and they were in the LCBO. But actually, that's the first beer I just remembered. On the back, it says Clifford Brewing. Oh yeah, I got to put them. It's got a little Clifford Brewing logo on it.
Oh, nice.
You see that?
Yeah, hang on. Hold it sort of, where your face... There you go. Oh, there you go.
There it is.
Look
that's
at that.
Cool.
Good for you. That must have been a cool feeling to see that. Like,
yeah, so that was really cool. Yeah, that was the first time my name was ever on a beer.
That's sick.
Yeah. So that did that, and then from there, then started making Clifford Porter. Basically, I got my own manufacturing license, where I could then brew beer under my own name and sell it to bars. And the first beer was Clifford Porter, because that was the beer I chose. Thought that was the best beer to. And for a year or two, you could only buy it in kegs, and I only sold it to bars in kegs.
Ah, okay. Is that a segue? Or is to crack the beer, to drink the porter?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, guys. Come on, help me help you.
Boy, that was a painful silence after you said that there.
Sorry, guys. I thought that was clear. Or is it probably not the best time to do it because we want to sort of like go and take us on a journey?
No, I think it's a great time to have a porter. Actually, no, that is.
Is there ever a bad... Now, wait. The question is, gentlemen. We can pull them both out, and maybe we could vote which one we're going to do because we have two porters.
Oh yeah.
So we have him, and we have. No, where is it? Here, my bad. All right. So we have two
Sorry,
different porters.
so what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting are you suggesting we do both, or we pick, or we pick
I'm
one
saying
on
we
the spot?
probably pick because,
Yeah.
and it would be up to Uncle Bradley over here, if I may call you that.
Oh yeah, I don't mind at all.
I thought you'd enjoy it. I had a feeling.
So the red can is the one most people would recognize. So that's the classic Clifford Porter, the original.
Yes.
Which was also the first beer I put in the LCBO. So after selling on draft only porter for about a year, then it's like, okay, it's time to put it in cans. So it was contract brewed at Cool. That same place the 100 Mile Lager was made. And kind of through Mike, I got to know everyone there pretty well. I was pretty good friends with the head brewer, Vince, and Adrian Popowitz was the brewmaster there at the time, who's a friend. So that was kind of, even though it didn't have a brewery, Cool was kind of my home base kind of place. I could hang out, go there, go there and make casks off the fermenter and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where was I going with this story?
We were going to talk about how that sort of came about, and we were going to drink one of these two.
Yes.
And the other one in the white can is the Nitro version.
Yeah, the Nitro. So that's just something we did this past year.
Okay.
Something I'd wanted to do for a long time. Like, what if we did a Nitro version of Clifford Porter, which years ago we did at the brewery. It's not too hard to do for draft only. But actually nitro dosing a can gets a lot more trickier. So we finally went ahead and did a nitro version in the can. We brought in an outside mobile canning unit that could nitro dose to do it, rather than using our own canning line.
Gotcha.
So it's not something we can easily do again. I mean, without bringing in, renting the equipment and doing it with another canning line.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but it really does change the flavor. If anything, just the nitro, it just makes it that much creamier. I find a lot more chocolate comes out in the nitro version. And it's delicious. And as you know, it just won a gold at the Canada Beer Cup.
Yes, it did. God damn it, we were there.
Yeah,
cheering you on. I love to see it.
Yeah.
Which is very cool, and it's a very highly awarded beer for a very good reason. It's genuinely spectacular. And I did drink the Nitro the other night because I couldn't help myself. And I just love porters so much. I love porters. So I'm very excited for this beer. Which one then, Brad, do you think we should... Do you feel like we should rock for the pod?
Open the Nitro one.
Open the Nitro?
All right,
you
do it.
got to shake it a bit first.
Oh, yeah, you got to shake. I was a little worried because I've had... maybe I feel like I'm doing it wrong or something. I feel like in the past I've always like shaken up nitro beers and they just didn't work. But this worked perfectly when I poured it the other night. It was spectacular. And it just works so well. Just that body, that nitro body, and you're right. Like oh shit.
Yeah,
okay,
if you open it kind of slowly.
Yeah. Whoops. I have to go and wash my hands.
Yeah, you got to give it a good crack. Got a bit of foaming going on there, and here we go.
I might have to be back in a second. I just said I'm so bad at nitro pours. This is like literally everywhere.
When you pour it, you can basically just pour it like
upside down.
Yeah, you can hard pour.
Yeah.
And then look at this cascade down. It's so gorgeous.
Oof. Oh, look at that. Look at it.
Fantastic.
Oh. Stunning. All right, I'll just be back in a sec. I got this shit everywhere. You guys keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries.
I was gonna say, remember we were talking earlier about how like the beer can age in the can.
Yep.
So this beer, like when we did the nitro, it was actually back like in last April. So this beer is about 6 months or so old now, 6 or 7
Oh,
months.
wow.
This particular batch. But I mean, it still tastes fantastic.
Well, yeah, it's also a porter. This is not a case of there's of like Nelson Sauvin or Citra Cryo that's going to be that's going to be falling off in this.
Yeah, exactly. Just the malt flavors just concentrate even more.
Yep, exactly. If anything, I mean, in that amount of time, it's only going to get better, really.
Yeah, at a certain point, it will start not being as good, but
Sure, of course. But oh man, after pouring that silky smooth crema on top, is just looking fantastic.
yeah. Another thing about this, well, the Nitro Porter, is that it really is the same porter. Like it's the exact same
Hmm.
like Clifford Porter. It came out of the same tank. We just nitro dosed it, so it's just
Right.
the gas, the mixture of gas
So
is
it
different.
Yeah, so it really is the exact same beer. It just can't like the only difference really comes down to when it's packaged. You're doing that nitro dose when it's packaged.
Exactly, it was just packaged differently with a different gas combination.
Yeah. So the Clifford Porter and we'll take a sip in a second. Like you were saying, first one in the LCBO. This is likely the first beer that most people in Ontario remember as as the first Clifford beer, the first true Clifford beer, um, that a lot of people in Ontario will remember. Do you want to tell us a little bit how this one came about? What made this the one that ended up in the LCBO first?
Yeah, it was the one that I chose. Like the porter was always like one of my favorites. Even as a home brew, I'd brew it, and yeah, people were like, wow, that porter is amazing. People would love it. And actually, you might notice I'm actually drinking porter out of my Duggan's glass here.
Ooh.
There you
Mike
go.
he made a fantastic porter, a London porter that I brewed with him. And mine is different, but I took some lessons from that like his recipe. Got some ideas, I guess you could say. A little bit of like not stealing, but I was gonna say it's like music, right? Like everyone's stealing a little bit from everyone. It's like,
No ideas original.
yeah, exactly. But we're both huge fans of Fuller's Porter. So really, I was drinking a lot of Fuller's Porter back then because you could buy it at the LCBO, and I was kind of just trying to do my own twist on the Fuller's Porter recipe in some ways. So I'd
That's
say
awesome.
like
Right on.
Fuller's Brown Porter, but then I like to go a little more heavy on hops, so I'd hop it a little more, basically,
Mm.
with still traditional English hops like Fuggle generally, sometimes Challenger. Uh, so yeah, it just came to be just making it at home and then making it at Get
Nice.
Well, then making it at two or three other breweries, contract brewing it in small batches. I actually made a few batches at Grand River back in the day.
Oh wow.
Uh,
Out in
which worked
Cambridge.
out great because their water is really hard. It is really the hardness in the water up there is fantastic for dark beers.
Mm.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
First, guys, cheers. Get that in you.
Cheers.
sure.
Get some porter going. Fantastic. It's so
Mm.
chocolatey.
Oh yeah.
The body is just spectacular. It's light. What is it? 5'9"?
Like lighter than the body is lighter than air.
Yeah. It's like that same texture for people who are maybe newer to it. It's like a kind of good thing to, it's like if people are into Guinness or something, which is great and a classic, but it kind of tastes like nothing. And maybe that's an intentional thing, and maybe that's because it's shipped or whatever. But there's just so much going on here with that same texture, that beautiful nitro texture, and that crazy chocolatey and that but like malted chocolate. It's just fantastic. It's such a
Yeah, and a
good
lot
beer.
of that the nitrogen just changes it that little bit.
Yeah.
Mm,
It makes it even lighter tasting, actually. Much like how Guinness. That's why Guinness is served on nitro, right?
right. Yeah, no, it
It
makes
makes
sense.
yeah
Pulls it
that
back a
light
bit.
body. Yeah,
And I think it's like 4% or 4.5 or something anyway. So it's like a different type of it's so light anyway. And then if I actually didn't know that nitro lightens it up. I mean, I guess it makes it less heavy because the body would be lighter due to the
yeah.
nitrogen.
Well, there's less CO2. Like only about half the CO2,
Right, right.
which is why you can shake it. but it is a
Right.
blend of CO2 and nitrogen. So like when you get a Guinness, it's a blend that they're pouring through the little plate. What do they call it?
The widget thing in the can, or
No, that's like for cans. Honestly, I don't know what the widget does much. I think it's just kind of more of a
gimmick?
gimmick. Because that's the
Trademark.
first thing people ask me, like, "Oh, is there a widget in it?" And it's like, no,
What?
I wouldn't know how to put one in.
Yeah, that would be a whole thing. Why do you have to shake a nitro beer?
The nitrogen, it kind of just activates it. It's not the best way to describe it, but kind
No,
of,
that makes sense.
yeah, because nitrogen doesn't want to go into solution. Like you have to force it in. Because I've pushed nitrogen into kegs to make a nitro version, and it takes a while to get it to actually go into solution. It's not like CO2, which quickly dissolves.
Oh.
Nitrogen's a little more difficult.
So if you put nitrogen in a keg, that's a way to do it through a regular tap as opposed to running it through a nitro tap.
Yeah, well, I could take a regular keg of porter and then hook it up to a nitrogen keg and just push the nitrogen in slowly over like a period of a couple days. Like it's a very slow process, but it will go in.
Okay.
That's not a very scientific way to do it, but
Okay.
that's like the homebrewer way to do it. But when we canned it, it was nitro doses a drop of liquid nitrogen, so it actually shoots the liquid nitrogen in the can, and you see it go. Psh,
Oh, so before it puts the beer, a regular porter in any can, it puts a drop of nitrogen in, then shoots the beer in.
Yeah, well, the canning process, it's got liquid nitrogen dropped in the can, which then quickly, that is quickly sealed. So that's the thing I said when you shake it, it kind of like, it's almost like it's sitting in the can there and it needs to kind of be put into solution.
Gotcha. So, okay, thank you for explaining that. And then if you're going to run it through a tap, then you could do it the way you said, which is to have a regular keg and then sort of like slowly introduce nitrogen in. But you know how if you got like the nitro tap, like a actual, similar to like a Luca, but a nitro tap, could you just
tap? That's what I was going to call it.
A creamer tap. That's a great word.
Yeah.
Would that, if you had one of those, could you just hook up a regular keg of porter and then run that bad boy through it, or any beer essentially?
No, you need to put it on a nitrogen gas. But even if you just put it on the nitrogen gas and let it sit for a few days, the nitrogen it'll slowly start to dissolve in. And then you could pour it through the creamer tap.
Okay, so the creamer tap isn't the be all and end all. There is more to the process.
There is more. You need a blend of, at a minimum, you have to at least be pouring it with nitrogen gas.
Okay.
But you want some nitrogen mixed in the keg as well.
So it would be specific kegs that are made for that tap. Okay. Would you...
No, just a regular keg. Really, it's just the tap changes. The keg is the same.
But you would just add the same keg and you'd probably put some drops in the top or some shit.
Oh, no, sorry. The drops, that's only for cans. The gas is basically just like some bars use beer gas to push their beer out. Some use pure CO2. Pure CO2, though, the CO2 will start to carbonate the beer more. With beer gas is actually a blend of nitrogen and CO2. So you could actually use beer gas to carbonate, which is what I've done before, to force it into a keg, like a normal type D coupler keg. You could hook it up and slowly force some of that nitrogen blend into the beer.
I never heard that. Beer gas. I've never even heard that before.
Yeah, that's what most bars use to pour their beer, actually, beer gas.
Okay. We're learning.
Yeah, they don't use pure CO2. We use pure CO2 because we were using beer gas for a while, but I found down near the end of the keg, it starts to kind of almost go flat with beer gas. But with pure CO2, you just have to be careful. Like you could shut it off at night because it will start to carbonate the beer more.
Right. So you got to turn that bad boy off. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So yes, this is spectacular. Love it. Really, it's a super fun way to consume a beer that's obviously a big fave. And probably the main thing that you're known for. Like I knew you for this beer before anything else because it has won so many awards. And mad people are just raving about it for very, very, very good reasons. So you made it the first time, I'm sorry, in 2014?
Commercially, 2015 as Clifford
15.
Porter.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was contracted from Cool in Toronto and then released as a contract beer into the LCBO.
Yeah, and that was actually when I moved to Hamilton in 2015. So 2015 was when Clifford Brewing, as the brand, was launched.
Okay.
But only had one beer, and that was Clifford Porter.
Okay.
Uh,
Was it the exact same beer that we're drinking today, or has it sort of evolved over the years?
exact same beer.
Hell yeah, that's even cooler.
Hasn't changed a bit.
So then, launching it with a porter in the LCBO is pretty, I'm about to say bold, but I imagine there probably wouldn't have been a ton of competition back then, or was there? Because it was a different time.
No, not really. Not very many.
Okay.
Black Oak might have made a porter.
I'm trying to even think now. Well, did Wellington? Wellington? No, I don't know if they did. Great Lakes?
I don't think there was a porter, no, at the time. That's the other reason actually I chose the porter, because I figured, it's kind of a
unique
bit
style.
of a niche style. And in retrospect, back then I really wasn't like thinking in terms of. I was honestly thinking in terms, what's the best beer I could make to put forward that people are going to drink and be like, wow, this beer's great. I just love this beer. I wasn't trying to make money, I guess.
It's like a good ass beer.
I wasn't thinking like this is like there were no financial real decisions made.
I mean, I can't imagine many
at the time.
At the time, there probably wasn't many breweries in the recent, decades that have made their like name on a porter. It's a unique style to do that on. How was the reception in 2015?
Excellent. Yeah, like back then it was easy to get on tap at bars, so I was probably like on tap at 50 plus bars, like a lot around Toronto, Hamilton, actually Kitchener, Waterloo, London, all over the place.
All right.
And that's when I started self distributing, because back then there really wasn't another way to distribute other than deliver it yourself. So I bought a van and basically started spending 2-3 days a week driving around delivering kegs to bars. Actually, all the way up to Windsor. I made trips out to Windsor to deliver beer. London. Just really like with friends, people I knew, bar owners. Had some good friends back then who were helping me sell it. And it kind of just word of mouth, it spread, got around like, oh, this is a great beer. You should have it on tap. So I had quite a lot of keg accounts at one time. Not a lot of keg accounts now.
No, for porter. Yeah, I can see it being sort of like a more specialty kind of thing.
Yeah, and honestly, these days I actually like, no, don't put the porter on tap. Put lager. I want to sell more beer.
Yeah, I mean, look, that makes more sense. You're definitely going to hit more people with that. But this would be almost like, I feel like if I went somewhere and saw this on tap, I'd be like, yo, like I'd be like excited. Like, it would be because most places don't have a porter.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So then, keep us going. So then you made it, got it out of the LCBO, brewing out of Cool, moved to Hamilton, 2015. What's the next steps from there?
Yeah, so like the long-term plan was always to find a place in Hamilton to build a brewery. Of course, that didn't happen right away. Took a couple of years, but I had some other friends as well that were doing the same thing around Hamilton, and we all kind of share kind of ideas and or struggles. I don't want to get into too much talking about the municipality of Hamilton, but it's a great city, but it's not an easy city to do business sometimes. So, but there was a reason why there was really not a lot, if any, breweries in Hamilton. Actually, that was the Collective Arts opened in 2015. I just remembered.
They
So,
just
yeah.
had their 10-year anniversary this year, so that means maybe it was 2013. But maybe
No,
but maybe that was
they were a
2013 of
contractor
contracting.
for 2
Yeah,
years
okay.
out of Nickelbrook.
Oh, of course
Yeah.
they were. Okay, so the brand is 10 years old, but the actual facility was
Exactly.
2015 because it was the Lakeport that on Burlington Street there. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like how like Clifford, I guess, is now 8, almost 9 years old, the brand, but we've only been in the physical brewery for 6 years.
Gotcha. Same type of thing.
That's why sometimes they're confused. Yeah.
No, I love that. And
I get confused.
yeah. Well, I think it's the coolest thing ever. And I said this to you when we're hanging out that I love hearing any sort of success story from contracting to brick and mortar. I think it's the coolest shit, particularly here in Ontario, where I feel like contract brewers got an unnecessarily hard time from, tastemakers and just people in the scene. Even as far as the OCB has gone out of their way, unfortunately. And I like the OCB, but I feel like they went out of their way to not include contract breweries in some of the tax breaks and things like that. Like people voted them out or something like that, I heard. And
yeah, it had to do with membership if you didn't have an actual brewery.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because contract breweries employ people too. Like contract breweries.
Oh yeah, and it's not cheap at all to be in this business, but it wasn't cheap to be a contract brewer either. You got to buy keg. You need a vehicle. You need licensing. You still spend the same money on cans.
Yeah.
Like there's no insurance. There's a number of things you have to have.
I think they were trying to argue that it was cheaper because they didn't have the brick and mortar overheads, but it didn't mean that they weren't contributing and didn't deserve the tax breaks or whatever it was. Yeah. Which is
it's kind of like honestly like you're a second class brewer kind of. Yeah.
That's a great way to say it. And I don't know, it always rubbed me the wrong way personally, just as someone like, I feel like that the people, I was about to say, I feel like the scene types of people who shit on contract brewers don't understand business. But you can't say that about the OCB and all the people who voted against that sort of motion, which is super unfortunate. Yeah. But like, name a contract brewery who really doesn't have aspirations to do what you did. Like, of course, everybody is doing that. It's just a way to test the brand in the market, just like what you did. You're like, well, I know these guys are cool. I can get something in the LCBO and make money whilst I'm still working my job, build this brand slowly but surely, and do your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, test out the market and then, before making the big leap into, because it's a gigantic capital investment. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Which many people make without having any name or reputation whatsoever.
Exactly.
And
technically.
It's a huge
Sorry.
number.
I'm passionate.
Well, Left Field did the same thing. I remember Mark and Mandy contract brewing for 2 or 3 years doing their beers at Grand River. Because I was at Getwell at the time and Mark would be coming in dropping off kegs of the beer he just made at Grand River before they got the place on
what's it called? Yeah, that little alleyway in off Greenwood.
Oh yeah,
Flagstaff,
Wagstaff.
There you go. Yeah, and now they just opened their place on in Liberty Village. I saw it. It looks huge. It's the Trois-Boisseurs, the old Trois-Boisseurs place, which is dope. So like that's great. I actually forgot that they were a contractor. I was telling you about Avant-Garde in Montreal, Overhop, who are also based out here for a bit. Now they're out there. They were at Oshlag, and now they're doing their own thing.
There's True History too.
True History, great example because we just had them on. They were contracting. They got their brewery now in Sinclair. Like there's a bunch of really great success stories from this. And Lost Craft, they were contracting for years. They got more shit than anybody, and now they have the brewery in the Junction. And Shahan told me recently that he goes, even if the interesting thing about contracting, because I was like, okay, cool. Would you move all production to then? He's like, well, no, because unless he goes, there's if you say you're brewing out of like Brunswick or Equals or something like that, the rates that they can give you to have the big fuck off fermenters, the huge ass ones. He couldn't match in his own brewery the same costs that they can at Brunswick at the larger scale. So it makes more sense to him to continue to brew contract for some of his brands, the larger ones that are running through LCBO and doing numbers from these from the contract breweries, even though he's still got that. And I know many other people who contract out their their flagship brands that need a larger volume to still contract, even though they've got their own physical brick and mortar brewery. So it's like, it's, even then I feel like it's still proving all the people who shit on contract brewing wrong.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, well, it's very, sorry, I was going to say it's very common to have a smaller brewery and a flagship brand that you have to contract brew, so you're not tying up your tanks.
Yeah.
With the one beer
That's
all
not
the
so
time.
much what the OCB was going after. I know a little bit of the inside information. I don't want to, offend anyone.
Yeah, you don't
but
need. Yeah, you
I know it
don't
had
need
to
to tell
do.
tales out of school here.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to do that. We're not trying to do that, but just more
I know. I
bringing.
think it had to do more with the Brunswick Beer Works and the equals. Basically, these massive breweries being built, basically largely just to do contract brewing, which would then a lot of people just jumping in the market because like, oh, it'd be cool to have my name on a beer, right? And we'll get it in the LCBO.
I totally understand that criticism because I know people. Excuse me. People always accuse brands of being marketing companies.
Yeah,
And I know I might have even told you when we were talking, but yeah, Shahan from Lost Craft's a good friend, and he got accused of that. And then he's out here owning the actual physics. Like, look, I told you, motherfuckers. Like, I've been trying to, be in this space, but I know of other brands that I'm probably sure we're all thinking of that are absolutely marketing companies just making beer to serve a purpose, and that doesn't contribute to the craft beer sort of scene and the everything else. So I can
I think
understand.
they started taking market share away from the large Ontario craft breweries like Lost Craft or Ace Hill just came to mind. They were definitely taking away market share from brick and mortar breweries. And, all the power to them. I'm all for a free market, and hey, go at it. And I think I heard they sold their company for like $200 million or something to Bacardi.
Who did?
For some reason, I'm just throwing a number out.
Oh,
there,
no,
but
okay.
It was ridiculous how much they sold it for.
Yeah, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if that's where some of it is gone.
Yeah,
Like
but
I'm
they managed to get that beer like on everywhere in the city, all over. I know around Toronto it was everywhere.
Did you say the name of the brewery you're talking about?
Ace Hill.
That's what I thought you were talking. That's who I was thinking of too. That was the one that people were. Oh, Nate just said his Wi-Fi went off, so he'll jump back in a sec.
I think it's owned by. I could be wrong, but I think I heard Bacardi bought it.
Interesting. I think it was didn't they own Parts and Labor or something like that? Those guys, and then they have a full they started that brand, and then they started the. Do you know what's strange? Their Ace Valley is their cannabis brand, and I don't smoke weed, but I have gummies a lot, and their gummies are phenomenal. It's so crazy to me that their gummies are so sick. They're so I really like them. But the that beer they got the deal I believe with Porter. Was it them who got the deal with Porter? I think they might have, or maybe it was BAOS. Either way, they came out. Okay, they came out at the same time as Lost Craft did, and people were lumping them in together. Whereas Shahan was like, no, I'm in it for beer, and he was the one who was talking to people in Scarborough who were completely ignored by the craft beer, like communities in Scarborough, like basically people of color who were completely ignored by most of the craft beer crowd. And Ace Hill were like a marketing company essentially, or they were a business doing other stuff. Now you're a businessman, I'm a businessman. I don't have a problem with people making money off stuff. I do understand the criticisms from maybe people who are a bit more purist in here's Nate in beer. We got you back. You good, Nate?
Yep, I'm good.
Beautiful. I saw your text. Yes, we let the people know Nate's back. But yeah, like I understand the criticisms of maybe a marketing company, like you said, taking real market share, real taps, in bars with their products that, you know, could have gone to a brewery who really cares about craft beer as opposed to someone just trying to make money. Like, so I understand that criticism, but I think the people were painting all contract breweries with the same brush as they were a brand like Ace Hill. And that's not even shitting on Ace Hill. Like, I don't actually have any problem with them.
I have nothing against Ace Hill. I mean, all the power to them. Hell, like,
do you think, bro, making money?
I'm not shares in Ace Hill.
Yeah, we should have. Jesus Christ! And I'm not mad at people who sell too. If you're gonna sell to most, if someone's gonna do what you are doing, Brad, and spend the money that it takes to open a brewery and to build a brand and to do all the things, and if Molson come to you tomorrow and go, "Here's $100 million," and if you didn't take it, I'd slap you. Like, fucking take the money and go and enjoy your life. It's beer. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
I think people really don't understand. Always forget that, and like they don't understand the people who usually are the you know, critics of this type of stuff haven't put their money into anything and don't really understand the nature of business and kind of get caught up in the passion of craft beer, which I also understand. I'm not completely criticizing that either. I get it. Like, you know, I'm passionate about beer as well, but I'm also, maybe I'm disappointed if my favorite brewery sells out. I'm like, oh fuck, now it's not going to be the same, but I'm happy for the people behind them. It's just, as a drinker, I know that if the beers were going to be the same, you kind of like, whatever. But then you know that your money's going to a company that is proactively trying to destroy the thing that you love, like such, you know, Molson and blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't want to support the companies that are going out of their way to take opportunities away from craft breweries through distribution and supermarket shelves and all that type of stuff. It's a very nuanced conversation, I guess, with regard to all this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Every situation is different. Yeah. But yeah, the longer you're in the beer industry, the longer you realize the beer is important, but the money's even more important. That's what it's really.
People do forget it's a business.
And like, making money in the beer industry is not quite as common as as we might think. It's not an easy business to be making money in.
No, it's not. I think right now more than ever.
You didn't get in it to make money. Well,
no, like that's what you said earlier. You didn't get into
to make a living. At least, you make a decent living, and your employees make a good living. If everyone can do pretty well and have fun while doing it, that's where.
It's certainly a fun industry.
Baseline.
Yeah. It's definitely all of that. It's go on, Nick.
On that note, that seems like a good spot to crack open another beer.
Oh, yeah. This porter, good Lord. Honestly, this is one of my favorite beers in Ontario. It is spectacular, Brad. This is such a good beer, dude. Like,
it's so good.
And the Nitro version is just like, I need to learn how to open these goddamn cans. I've never opened a Nitro beer cleanly in my life. What's the secret? Is it quick, Nate? I think you said you just got to
you just got to crack it. You
aggressive.
got to not you got to not do the thing where you kind of like slowly do it and let it seep out. Like, you need to just go for it.
Or you just give it shake it a bit like this, just like.
Well, no, I shook the shit out of it until it stops moving, which means that the bubbles are in there. But I think I did the slow open, which lets it like ooze out a little bit, and that's why it spilled everywhere. It wasn't that bad. I typically would open them over a sink, so it's okay. It's just I'm not there. So good. So we've had the lager, the APA, the Nitro Porter. What's the next step? What makes sense in where we are in the story to go to the next beer? Maybe that's a fun way to look at it.
Maybe Dark Streets of London, because I think that was the next beer that was made.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
The ESB.
I also just love the name of this one.
It's super dope, and I had this with Brad at the brewery last Friday, and oh man, it was so good. I just kept smelling the glass. It just smells like toffee. It's fucking brilliant. I loved it. Which glass? I used the wrong glass for the porter. I even had the stout glass. Now I'm having an ESB and a stout glass. Who am I?
You fucking idiot.
I know. I'm an amateur. I got caught up in the story. So I was telling Brad, Nate, that ESBs are obviously a brewery like Clifford, who does a lot of English beers and stuff. This is completely on brand and exactly what you'd expect. And I was saying that that you and I have been drinking a lot of ESBs of late on the pod, which has been a genuine treat and a pleasure for the
It
both
sure
of us.
has.
And you know, it was never a style that I don't know about you, but I was never into ESBs. I didn't just never really tickled my pickle as such. But now I'm like a huge fan of them.
Yeah, it wasn't even a style that I even used to think about all that much.
Yeah.
And it would be like, and it would be one that if I saw it on a beer list somewhere, like my eyes would be skipping over it to the next thing there.
100%.
But after having so many of them in the last couple of years, like I've come to really, really dig them, same as you.
Oh, just spectacular. So this one then, so Brad, you did the I mean we can talk about the beer as we drink it too, but you did the porter as your first beer. Did this one come pretty shortly after?
Trying to remember.
Hey, it's a while ago.
This came to mind. Actually, the name of this beer changed. The original name for it was Bastard Landlord.
Is that the episode name? I'm gonna write that down. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah, do write that down.
Bastard Landlord. I wonder if we get cancelled for saying that. Okay, tell me about that one. Need to know.
That's why I changed it. But another little aside. So some people get the name. Like, I'm a big fan of the Pogues, the Irish.
Oh yeah.
Irish / English.
Yep.
So Bastard Landlord is kind of an obscure B-side, Pogue's B-side. I really like the name because there's a lot of names like Landlord's Daughter, like Old English style bitters would use the term landlord would be used in it a lot.
Why is that?
So I thought it was, why is it?
Yeah, why? I know nothing. I like it. That's fun.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, so I just thought Bastard Landlord was so actually at Get Well we had it on as Bastard Landlord, I recall.
Oh, that's got to be the episode name. I love that.
It is a great name. Yeah,
it's awesome.
So I made it and sold it as that for a while, and it's just a really nice English ale, ESB extra special bitter, so it's usually a little higher in alcohol.
What is it? 5.2.
Yeah, ESB's the Fuller's ESB I think is up around 5.7 or 8.
Okay, just a little lower.
We made this one a little more drinkable. So yeah, just using nice. It's all English caramel malts. Basically, we use a lot of Maris Otter as the base malt, which is a classic English malt. So that really helps with the maltiness. And then a combination of a couple different crystal malts and a little bit of chocolate malt. Just a touch of chocolate for the color.
Just a touch.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, get that in you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Money. So much toffee and caramel. Super smooth.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's super clean. It just reminded me when I was 2004. So I lived in Toronto for the first time in 2004, and I after for like 7 months on the working holiday visa, traveled around Canada and the States and went to the UK. And my cousin lived in the UK. She lived in Manchester, and we went up to visit her. And I remember going to a bar, and I was always excited to drink the beers from wherever we were. Like, I didn't know shit about beer, but I always drank the, macro, I guess, 2004, a different time. And I remember having, I think it's called John Smith Bitter.
Oh, yeah, John
I remember hating that shit. And I was obviously had a beta palate at the time, didn't know jack. Is that an ESB? I don't know why it just sort of hit me now. It just made me think of it. I'm going to look it up on Untapped and see if it is, but... You know what I mean?
I mean, really,
I think it's called John Smith Bitter. So in English, I guess it's like
an English bitter. And when people hear bitter, especially I know in the tap room, I say, "Oh, it's an English bitter." They're like, "Oh, I don't want to drink anything bitter." It's like, but bitter to the English was just like a little hint of bitterness, right? Like, hardly anything.
Looking at this John Smith, that looks very similar to this. So
Yeah.
essentially, and I remember it being really creamy to the point where I remember I gave it to my cousin. I was like, I can't drink this, like, because I was that soft with what it was. And this is a 3. This is kind of what you're saying, a bit stronger. This John Smith is
Kind of like when
3.6.
people are like, "Oh, I can't drink dark beer." Oh.
Yeah, and I probably thought at the time Guinness was hectic, and not knowing, I just, it's one of those things where you're just not super familiar with the styles and stuff. But so this is like a lot potentially bolder. I mean, a solid 2%, sort of more than a beer like that.
Yeah, well, basically you have. I'm trying to think of my BJCP styles, like ordinary bitter, and then a special bitter, then extra special bitter. Basically, it's just like it goes up a little bit more in alcohol, the percentage.
With the ESB. Okay.
Yeah. So the ESBs, and it's honestly kind of a marketing thing back then. The beer companies were like, "Oh, this is our best bitter."
Right.
Extras, because
we make
it's best bitter.
the best one.
Okay. Interesting. It's just so drinkable and so smooth.
Yeah, and the flavors are so delicate as well. It's it's got quite a bit of complexity to it. There's nothing super bold or punching in the face, but it's actually really quite delicate. Like there's nice bits of sweetness to it, but it's not one note sweetness either. There's a bit of caramel to it, like a bit of you even get a bit of notes of chocolate to it, kind of like some dried fruit notes to it as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in this.
A lot of that too is like we use all traditional English malt, English hops, but we also go the extra mile and get English yeast. So we use a London ale strain that's a specific strain that really accentuates the dark fruits in there. So some of that flavor is yeast derived. Where if you were to use just like a neutral California ale yeast, you wouldn't get the same effect.
Yeah, I bet you wouldn't.
No, I can't imagine you.
So that's what kind of makes the difference. Like really using authentic, original ingredients that have been used for decades, centuries, really.
Yeah,
I mean, I imagine that makes all the difference in the world as far as the authenticity and sort of the experience of this. And this is fantastic out of a can. I feel like on tap, it was. I mean, it's pretty similar, but I feel like I really enjoyed the experience on tap as well. And I feel like it was a little different, which I think is extra cool when you compare the tap experience to a can. Yeah.
So this one, we put this one in the LCBO about a year ago, and it's been doing really well. Because I kind of saw it as a companion to the porter.
Yeah.
First, we were making it seasonally, so we were only making it once a year. And people loved it, but ESBs, there's a reason a lot of breweries don't make them because they don't exactly fly off the shelves. But surprisingly, though, this one is really it just takes a while. You got to introduce it to enough people, and it finds its market, right? And once we put in the LCBO, it was selling even better than we expected.
That's great. Now, is that like a new thing for the style? 'Cause, look, just for context, like I don't know if I told you this when we were hanging out, because this is once when you and me you showed me the brewery and went to get the beers for the pod. This is what I chose to drink because I realized I hadn't had it before, and tell me if I told you this, but Nate and I had a number of podcasts in the last 12 to 18 months where surprisingly breweries had chosen to send their ESB as to showcase on the podcast. And that was always interesting to us. And there was brewers such as, rest in peace, Barncat, who had done that. And I think that was the first time it happened. And we were like, what the fuck? Like an ESB?
And that was the wildest one.
That was the wildest one, and that's the one that sticks out in memory. And then from then, it probably happened half a dozen times, and we were quite surprised by it. And once again, like this was a style that I had in my head that I didn't like because of that John Smith experience 19 years ago. And it wasn't a bad beer. It was just I wasn't ready for it. and in hindsight, it's not a big beer to get ready for, but, you know, I can understand if you think of it that people in their beer journey need to sort of work their way through those styles because it's not always going to be an easy thing. But to see, it feels like ESBs are having some sort of a resurgence.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Yeah. Just like you might kind of gather, like, I like to make beers that I like to drink, first of all, but obviously just easy, like classic, easy drinking beers. Drinkability is the big part, right? Like, so we like to make beers that you want to have more than one of. A beer, you know, you try it. I love that beer. You're gonna have another one.
This is definitely one of those beers. And once again, 5.2, which is like you said, the ESB makes it's just like a little bit on the higher end because you know the John Smith was 3.6 or whatever it was for like it's had some weird like
ordinary bitter,
ordinary ale. I think it called itself, and I was like, oh, that's a very unmarketable
really cool
name
too. And you can make these very flavorful beers that are very, very low alcohol, which are those are the original like session beers because they were made to drink in the pub, and you could sit there and have like
12 of them and be fine.
Get up and walk out. And
yeah.
Maybe go shopping or something.
Maybe safely drive home. I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean that makes sense. So the ESBs are a little more flavorful, a little on the higher end, but the thing that was curious to me was the popular kind of what we were talking about in the beginning. The popular, maybe we were talking about the hop contracting, and I thought that maybe it was because of the popularity of lagers, and I've seen that happen. I'm pulling this out of my ass a little bit, but around 2019, 2018, maybe I saw it start to sort of peak up a little bit. As far as seeing more places do it, and where maybe they were doing slow pours, like the 3-step slow pour, or some places had a Luca or whatever. And then as you go from there, lagers, obviously the next step is to go into something like an ESB or a porter or oatmeal stouts and things that are a little bit more on the traditional side, Czech beers, German beers, so on and so forth. And ESB is definitely a logical step in that process. And it's interesting to me, but it's also like it makes sense. Like it's almost like, oh wow, like all these breweries are doing it. But I'm like, oh, but if you're doing all the lagers and exploring that whole color wheel from Dunkels and Schwarzbiers and the Czech and the German and blah blah blah, the whole Oktoberfest Marzens, blah blah blah, and then the box maybe, and then of course the British beers in the traditional sense, the porters and the stouts and the ESBs and blah blah blah. It's like, all right, well, breweries are obviously seeing a bit of an interest in that, and I wonder if it's coming from the consumer side or from the brewer side. Probably a bit of both.
Yeah. I think a bit of both. Yeah, like
I love it. I love to see it, man. I mean, obviously for you, it's less of a no-brainer. For you, I'm like, oh yeah, cool. This makes complete sense for Clifford to have an ESB. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's a beer that was part of the original lineup, really. In fact, I just remembered I did make a batch I sold to bars once of Bastard Landlord, just one small batch.
Just one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where we were. Okay, so we're talking about that. I know we kind of always get caught up here, but it's okay, part of the fun.
But then it got renamed Dark Streets of London, which is also a Coke.
Okay, so continuing it. And you renamed it, probably was easier to sell as a name like this as opposed to have a word that might be...
Yeah, that and I didn't want to offend my landlord.
I mean, not all landlords are bastards, I imagine. I'm sure there's some good ones out there. So then you had the porter going 2015. When did this one come in? Was it 2016?
Oh yeah, 2015 or 16 around.
Okay.
Then. Yeah.
Was this
a contract brewed version?
Okay.
Very small amount. I think.
Okay, so
5 hex or something.
Not in the LCBO then. This was just
a then keg. It was. Oh yeah, just kegs. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But then we were making it just kind of like English ale, basically on tap at the brewery when we first opened.
Okay. So I imagine we're probably moving towards the brewery opening part there. So then porter's doing well. It's in the LCBO. It's in like 50 plus bars around Toronto and Ontario in general. How did that progress? And you'd moved out here. How did that progress to the brewery itself sort of manifesting?
Uh, you
Yeah, I
guys
know
mind if I?
sometimes. Huh?
Do you mind if I take a quick break?
Oh, go for it.
Yeah,
Go for it.
yeah.
Take your time. You know what? We could all take a quick pause. We'll be back in a sec.
Yeah.
And we're back. Alrighty. So, Uncle Bradley, the Dark Streets of London. Did that ever contract brew at all? Or aside from those small, 5 hack batches, did it ever contract brew in a larger format, or was it, pretty on the,
I'm
on
just
the
kind of
brewery side?
vaguely remembering I contract brewed one batch of it, just one batch
One
at
batch.
Grand River, and it wasn't even very much beer.
Okay.
Mm.
This
A little small guy.
2015,
Okay.
and I don't even think it turned out quite as good as it should have turned out.
Gotcha.
Not nearly as good as it tastes right now.
Of course.
Because of course
Wait,
you're brewing it somewhere else, someone else's equipment. And
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. So then, 2016, I imagine that's probably when the planning started for the brewery down here.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, 15, 16. Doing 16 was getting Clifford Porter in the LCBO,
Okay.
and then somewhere around there, around 17, actually swapped it out for Pinball Wizard for a little while.
Okay.
Because I was trying to get Pinball Wizard in the LCBO, and I recall it got declined, which is very common. Anyone who understands the LCBO system knows what declined means.
What does that
So I,
mean? Does it mean
so I
like
sent an email to the product managers basically saying, this is a great beer, like you should really reconsider this.
okay?
And I got a reply like weeks later being like, you're right. We absolutely love the beer. We want it in the LCBO. Like we'd love to have it, but essentially they weren't going to give me another listing. So they're like, but you can switch this one out like halfway through the year. So I sold porter through the
Oh, the colder months and
winter months, and then through the spring summer or fall winter porter, and then spring summer LCB. Yeah, Pinball Wizard.
I mean that makes why couldn't they give you a second listing? Was there a reason for that?
Well, this was like even then the LCBO is just starting to get overrun with all the craft breweries that were opening in Ontario, right?
And they maybe
And
weren't ready.
you have a very limited amount of shelf space, even more limited now than ever before, with so many different brands or so many different breweries all trying to get their beer and multiple SKUs, as we call them, into the LCBO.
That makes sense. So then swap that out with Pinball. That means there's 2 SKUs that have been really sort of, aside from this, maybe on the smaller scale, that have been sort of like crafting the brand in the minds of the consumers in 2015 and 2016. So then because you moved to Hamilton, you were like, all right, well, this is where I want to start.
Yeah, I was actually still working in Toronto. I still worked there on the weekend, so I spent quite a bit of time like going back and forth. But I had an arrangement where I could basically during the week, like 4 days of the week, I had free to do my brewing, and then on the weekends I went back and worked in the financial world in Toronto on the weekends, which was kind of a strange setup, but it was like a 24-hour business there, so.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So basically, started looking for a space in Hamilton in what was that? The beginning of 2017.
Okay.
And late 2016, and found basically a big warehouse space over in the east side of Hamilton, right off the Red Hill Valley Parkway on Nash Road North. It had been sitting empty for about a year. It used to be a and really it just seemed to check all the boxes. The biggest box being that, hey, you can open a brewery here. When I say that, I mean legally, zoning wise, in Hamilton, they would authorize a brewery to operate in that area.
Right. And I think it just cut out when you said it, but I'm pretty sure you were saying it was a mattress factory.
Yes, it was before that. The building that we located.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And my dog, he came down when I went to the bathroom, and then now he's eating the books. Bear, don't eat the books. Oi. The books that were holding the computer up. Oh man, come here, buddy. Come here. Sorry, guys. He's actually pretty cute if we get you. Come here, buddy. Come here. No nyam the books.
Oh God.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's all right. Oh boy, here we go.
I know. I'm just trying to like get it out of his mouth because it's right here. Just so then, you locked that one in pretty much straight away.
I wouldn't say that. Well, it was actually me and my father that were, we were looking at a few different places, basically, kind of putting together a financial plan. My dad is an investor in the brewery. It helped me get it open.
Oh, love that family
business.
Yeah, very much. It was a family affair that we saw this place and basically was like, well, this seems like this will work, right? So there was some back and forth with the landlord. Can you do this? Can you do that? But basically, at the end of the day, it was like we knew that was going to be the place, and if we didn't do it then, if I hadn't pulled the trigger on that particular place, there probably wouldn't even be a Clifford Brewery. So,
was it
everything? The stars aligned, and it all worked out.
Was it that difficult to find a suitable? I mean, I know you and I were speaking sort of off air the other day about the difficulties of Hamilton. You did allude to it here. No need to go into it, but was it that made you like, oh, I've got a spot, I need to grab what I can, or was it more just like the sheer sort of lack of opportunities?
Yeah, well, it's the reason I said that, just a little perspective, because there really wasn't anything else like a building that was available for lease that was in the properly zoned area. I quickly became friends, actually, because around that same time, Merritt was opening, Fairweather was opening, Grain and Grit was opening. We were all kind of all under construction almost in the same year. They were a little bit ahead of me. They had already signed leases and were working on their buildings, but we were just signing a lease. So they were about 8-10 months ahead of me.
Gotcha.
But we all got together and talked to each other and shared information about how to do anything and everything, right? Fairweather was amazing, actually. They were very helpful because they were like a few steps ahead of me on, and they had actually looked at the building that we're in now.
Oh, really?
Really? They had looked at that building. It was potential, but then they found the building they're in, which is definitely perfect for them.
Hell yeah.
But it all had to do with, this is what a little bit what we talked about. It all had to do with the very kind of restrictive zoning laws in Hamilton. Now they made it easier, but in 2016-17, it was very hard to find. Essentially, it had to be an industrial zoned area. There was no way you could open a brewery if it wasn't in an industrial zoned area, which was the reason why Hamilton had very few breweries. Well, next to none, essentially none. Like there was Lakeport Brewery, which is famous, and it was the Amstel Brewery before that in the 90s, but that was in the north end where it was heavy industrial zoned for that.
So it was a little easier to slide that in.
Yeah, but craft breweries, basically the city, they didn't really understand what they were, and they're like, I don't know if we want those here, right? We don't want those here, craft breweries.
Was it just a lack of understanding of
a lack of understanding? Exactly, very big, lack of understanding.
I mean, that's a shame, but I mean, oh, for fuck's sake, this dog is eating something.
And like a really lost opportunity for the city.
Big time.
Yeah, well,
like until that.
I'm not going to
take care of the dog. Keep talking
bad about Hamilton.
Yeah.
Love it.
No.
Great for me, but you talk to a lot of people here that have done great things, entrepreneurs that have done a lot for the city. Like they all have their complaints that you're working against the tide, or like there's a lot of forces pushing against you when it should be the
Yeah.
opposite.
Oh, it's really unfortunate because Hamilton does have quite a vibrant brewing scene now, and like with so many of the ones that we've already mentioned. But like, it's really unfortunate to hear that there's kind of such a tide pushing against them in in trying to build the businesses that they have managed to build, because it feels like the brewing scene could have been as vibrant as it is now a lot sooner if there hadn't been quite so many difficulties in getting to this point.
Yeah, and it kind of took a little bit of creativity, ingenuity, and luck to get them open. The breweries that do exist, because I
Yeah,
could
and
tell
a
you
lot
this,
of
we didn't do
perseverance.
it. We didn't do it using money. Money was not how we
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
We didn't have a lot of. We only had enough money to buy our brew equipment, and that was about it. So, whereas
right.
usually money can do anything, right? Like in the right.
Well, sure, but yeah, I mean, but like we've already said, there's not a lot of people who get into who get into the craft brewing business either with a lot of money or to make a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah. So looking back now, it was a really cool experience, great time. I remember going over to Fairweather, meeting those guys for the first time, and they were like digging drains, and it was
Oh
just
yeah,
it was a complete construction site. We became fast friends. It's like, hey, so apparently I need to get an engineer or a drawing. How the hell do I do that? And they're like, oh yeah, here's how you do it. You know, yeah, we'll just
yeah.
share ours with you, and you can just like do this, and honestly, like,
Oh yeah,
they'd be
why
like,
not?
yeah. Like,
That's
who
cool.
do I
No,
talk to do this? Oh, talk to this
yeah,
person. Or, we did this. You should do that too. So there was a lot of that.
yeah. I'm not surprised to hear that. They're a fantastic bunch of folks there at Fairweather.
It makes me happy to hear that about the Hamilton breweries, that the guys work so close together to really help each other open, particularly in a city that's maybe has a little bit more challenges than some of the other cities surrounding. So it's like, it's super cool that, like, I was saying to you, Brad, as well, that like it always confused me, and you kind of explained it, why. Maybe it's a little more just the regulations and stuff here. Like, why do we're the third biggest city in Ontario, but we have 8 breweries?
Yeah.
And it makes no sense. For the volume of population, we could absolutely sustain more.
Yeah,
it's really
and
unfortunate.
Like I told you a bit of how Sean and Ed, I know it's no secret that it was an uphill battle for them to open in Dundas. So yeah, it was a little easier, maybe. I don't say easy, but Collective Arts opened it in what was once a brewery, right? And that was when they paired with Nickelbrook too, the partnership, the
Help
arts
them
and
get it
science.
going. Yeah.
And then Sean and Ed. But then the rest of us, which are kind of more, I was going to say the scrappy underdogs, right? We did it more, grassroots, like just sharing information with each other. A really good friend of mine, Victor North, he was an inspiration for me to come to Hamilton, and he was not able to get a brewery open here just because he wanted to open a brew pub, but he wanted to do it downtown, but it was too difficult, and he couldn't get over the hurdles, basically.
That's unfortunate.
Super unfortunate. And it's like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me without knowing all of the inside, reasons for it. It feels like a lot of the what's the word? Red tape and such is like, we've always done it this way. And as opposed to like, oh, look at logic. Like, none of it is logical. It's completely just bureaucrats being like, we do it like this, or this is how it's done, and if you don't follow the rules that were written in 1928, then you're not going to fuck it over. It's just so absurd, and particularly in a time when we lost how many small businesses in the last few years. Like, you wouldn't make it easier for somebody to do it, and who, like, if you're employing people, I feel like you should be praised on hands and knees type thing. It's
and like, what breweries do for the community, local communities, right? Like,
Yeah.
They totally change areas. I'm not saying we've
Absolutely.
changed the area that we're in, but it's a lot different than when we first moved in. It's you know
They're more important than
we
people give them credit for.
yeah we
Yeah,
bring a
for sure.
lot of traffic in down into the area of Hamilton that we're in. That before there was not as much, put it that way.
Yeah, you
Right.
can definitely tell it's quite an industrial zone, but I feel like breweries that bring people into industrial zones, you're sitting on the patio, you're like, oh, what's that business over there? And you're seeing it from the, across the street from you guys. There's a whole, it's like a little strip of stuff. And I remember when we first went and sat on the patio, we were like, oh, what's going on there? And you're like looking around, sussing out the area, seeing what's going on. Like, that's part of the whole thing, trying to learn all the different stuff. And all down Barton there's a whole bunch of different stuff just off where you guys are. It's
It's I should mention we're still in East Hamilton because many are like, oh, Clifford Brewing's in Stony Creek. But Stony Creek's a little further over,
no,
a little more.
Stony Creek. Yeah,
but we might as well be in Stony Creek essentially. And
hey,
that's
relax. You're like 10 minutes from me, and we're not. No. Like, I feel like it's like. It's like, I get it. I know what you're talking about because you keep going down Barton and you hit Centennial there just after Long and McQuaid. Just after that, because that's where we got this bad boy and everything. Like, that's Stony Creek there. Cool. But I feel like you guys are deep, like, there's still a lot between you guys and there.
Oh, yeah.
For
sure.
On Barton. It's interesting. Even when we got our car, like the Hyundais on Barton just up there. Like, there's a lot happening in between that stuff. We go to the recycling place all the time. You take, you buy a big piece of furniture, you take all the IKEA shit back to that fucking, what's it called? The recycling, Kenora Recycling Center or something.
Oh, the dump.
The dump, which is pretty dope because you just drone there, you just drop the shit off. It's wicked.
Yeah.
Super convenient. That's why I was like, oh, you're here. Because I'm like, we get off at the next one.
I like to joke. We're the brewery by the dump.
But well, it's a very convenient dump. It's a very nice dump. It's not like a dump in Australia. They're just like big landfills. This is like big, blue, things that trucks can move. It's very interesting. Different type of dump.
Yes.
But it's a good dump.
So is the episode name now going to be A Very Nice Dump?
I would know. I feel like that would be funny, but inappropriate. We would never.
No.
Yeah, I know.
That would not that would not do any justice to Clifford Brewing.
No, I really think Bastard Landlord's the one.
I think so.
So. Okay.
Okay. Wait. Sorry. I'm gonna have to interject now.
Next beer?
Because I have just fully tapped my ESB. Are we? What are we thinking? Do we thinking one more, two more? What are we doing?
Oh, we're doing a
one more to bring her home.
Whatever. As many of you guys want.
I'll do 6. I'll do 6 more. What do we want to do next? We're not even at 2 hours yet.
All right, Brad. What do you reckon?
Oh, you want to do another lager? You want to do Chain Link?
Yeah, let's do it.
Chain Link slaps. Hey, so I haven't had it since it's changed the can art here, right here, looking very Vienna-y.
Now, you know what? I'm actually not sure I have this one.
Oh,
Chain Link?
You should. It's the Vienna Lager.
I am pretty sure I don't have this one.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
We can do a different one.
Maybe I forgot to send you this one.
Double check. But if
I will double check, but I'm quite certain.
Okay. So then, in lieu of that, what's another option? What about Devil's Punchbowl?
Oh yeah,
I do have that.
Because that's a lager. That's an ISO.
That's another lager. Yeah.
Do you have that one, Nate?
I do. Yes. No. I was right. I don't have the Vienna.
Okay.
Oh,
but
okay.
I do have Devil's Punchbowl.
I'm down for that. Boom. I think I had this one the first time on tap at the brewery.
I have one from my fridge.
Grab it. Oh, yeah. ISO, love to see it. 4.8%. Uh, an India Session Lager, would that be considered a like, is that essentially a hoppy lager at that point?
Yes. So a bit of the backstory just on this one quickly. The early days of the brewery, we only, I only had four fermenters. So we were making Pinball, Porter, East Hamilton, and then something else, probably sorry, not EHL, Dark Streets
Hmm.
/ Bastard Landlord.
Bastard.
Uh, and I was like, how can we get another beer? So I kind of got creative and uh, experimenting with dry hopping East Hamilton lager, usually with citra hops, but different, basically, yeah, very fruity hops. Because what do they call? Basically, no, sorry, I'm blanking. India Pale Lagers were
Yes,
becoming very
IPA.
popular. Yeah, IPLs, all these acronyms. India Pale
So many.
Lagers were becoming very popular at the time. So yeah, we were taking East Hamilton, dry hopping it, trying out different combinations, and then came up with the idea: what about an India Session Lager? So it was on tap at the brewery. The first year, we had it on tap. Just that it didn't have a name, and then the name, actually, a former employee came up with the name, which was very good, Devil's Punch Bowl, because the Devil's Punch Bowl is the famous
The big,
waterfall
yeah.
right there in Stony Creek, just
Yeah.
not far from the brewery.
Not far, but not far. The brewery is in Hamilton. The brewer.
Yeah, and it's a cool name.
Just to make it clear.
Devil's Punch Bowl.
Yeah, super dope name.
And,
Not
I
that
should
you're
give a
getting,
shout
not
out
that you're getting
actually
defensive or
to-
anything, but
I'm getting better at holding these up.
Look at you, you're a
I should
professional.
mention
Now.
actually, Greg Poole is my designer.
Big ups, Greg.
This is weird. I'm getting better at this.
Towards your face. There you go.
Oh, you hold it over your face, yeah.
That's what I used to do before phones had the back camera, and you could only take before they had the front camera, and I had to take the beer selfies with the back camera. I used to put the beer can on my head because I knew where my head was in time and space, and I was able to get that. Otherwise, if I did it anywhere else, it was 35 photos until you got the damn thing. Good times, right? Good times. ISL. Cheers, legends.
cheers.
Cheers. Drink this one
Smells
from the
great.
can.
Oh yeah, that's lovely.
So yeah, to be honest,
Oh, yeah.
like, people say, "What is your favorite beer?" And I don't really have a favorite, but the beer I probably drink the most of is Devil's Punch Bowl.
Okay, why is that? Would you say?
It's a lager. It's super easy drinking, but it's got that really nice hop character. We often use Cryo Citra as the dry hop,
Hell yeah.
which really
Okay.
comes through. Not very much, just enough to give it that little pop and flavor.
Yeah, man, it definitely popped. There's definitely like a nice punchy, pun intended, like tropical flavor in there that kind of ramps up over and above that bready malt. A little bit, that the grassy bitterness is still there. It's super smooth, similar-ish to the East Ham Lager, but sort of ramped up. Even though technically it's a lower ABV in it, slightly.
Yeah, well, India
4.8.
Session,
I mean,
so it's under 5. We probably brew it more about 4.5%. So that was the thing. The early batches were East Hamilton with the dry hop, but then we started making it as its own beer.
Gotcha.
And we started really, we upped the Whirlpool hops with Citra. So there's a lot of Citra hops in it, but it's a nice hybrid of a lager with an IPA, basically.
Hell yeah. Cool style, man.
No, I love this. It's like just sub 5 at 4.8. Like there's nothing sacrificed in body. It definitely still has something there, and like grapefruit pith like a really nice kind of dry hop bitterness to it with a ton of citrus and and grassy flavor going on to it. This is real nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
citrus, grassy. Like, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel or anything. It's just a tasty beer.
Hmm.
Here for it. No, this works well, and I just checked when I had it was July 30th, so like nice and warm afternoon, crushing this on the patio. Money.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, this went down a
Oh
treat.
yeah, when
that
you were
would
first
be.
brewing, you had it. Yeah,
Yes, it was before we'd sort of connected properly.
yeah, I wasn't there that day.
Yes, it was the late decision in the afternoon on a weekend. We're like, oh, let's go to like a couple places we haven't been. Like, let's make sure we do that. And we're like, yeah, fuck it, let's go. And it was great. And I very much enjoyed it. I thought this was like the perfect, excuse me, because I had the East Ham Lager a bunch of times. So I was like, all right, well, let me try something different. And this was great. I'm a huge fan of IPLs or ISLs, sort of relatively. The only difference is kind of ABV, but a matter of like a fraction of a percentage of alcohol for the most part. IPLs aren't exactly like high ABV; they're like 5 to 6 maybe. So it's not like too crazy, but this is great, man. Super crushable and just like Cryo Citra. Fuck yeah, it's like a nice little tropical punch. I love like hoppy lagers. It's just such a great style, man. Such a great style, and this works so well. Both
Sorry, I was starting to say about the labels. Yeah, so
yeah.
Greg did a fantastic job on this one. All of our
Oh
labels
yeah,
are
it's
done
lovely.
by Greg Poole, Underground Productions, and I met him through actually. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on he lives up in Durham, the Five Paddles Brewery.
Oh
He
yeah.
used to do
Oh yeah.
design for those guys. He was a friend of theirs, and I met him. And this was going back 20, I think it was 16. And I emailed him and said, hey, I heard you do design. Would you design my Pinball Wizard label? So he did the Pinball Wizard label that is the original and still exists. So that was the first one he did for me. And then he's done everyone since.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
People are always complimenting like how great the design labels are. And basically I just tell Greg, hey, I got a new idea for a beer. This is the name. And he usually gets it like first or second try, like bam. He just sent me some amazing artwork.
That's sick, man. Very convenient when you got a good person that just like meshes with your vision for it, and
and
make that translate.
He's done every one of our labels except Clifford Porter.
Okay,
Because Clifford Porter was my friend Kieran Champagne, who did the original Clifford logo, and then he did the Porter,
which makes sense
because the only one Greg didn't do.
The logo. I mean, this is the Nitro one, but like the logo is primarily the label, so it's like that makes sense. But that's dope, man. And like that's what you need, that consistency in the branding. And you guys, one thing you do at the brewery, which is super cool, you're selling the prints in frames, which is cool, in like little guys plus like much larger ones of the of the labels.
All the labels.
Yeah, it's sick, man. It's like it's a really cool merch idea and stuff. And like a lot of people have little rooms, basements, garages, whatever, where they keep all their beer stuff. And people love stickers and posters. And if you already got it pre-framed, it's like it's a no-brainer. Like hell yeah, I got a space. This is a great beer. I want to represent for that. Chuck it on the wall. It looks awesome.
Yeah, and the frames, basically they're like reclaimed barnwood. My friend Darren makes those for me.
Very cool, man.
That's dope.
Once again,
each one is custom handmade. He spends a lot of time making them. And when he started out, they were pretty simple, but then he kept getting more like technical in the frames and adding little bits to them.
That's dope. And keeps the money in the local economy to small businesses and small artisans and stuff, which I think is probably like more than ever. I think that's more important.
Yeah.
Like to really support local businesses at a time when, we're in a bit of an economic downturn. Like that's how you got to keep people going and keep the money local. It's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And this is while we're talking about the labels here, this is this is a small thing, but but interesting and noteworthy. All of these labels are full wraps. None
Yeah.
of none of them
No
are stickers.
stickers.
They're all full wraps.
We did the stickers for a while. Yeah, we were doing them for a while in a lot of the early beers, but then the wraps just became
Easier.
yeah. Well, they look better. The stickers are actually easier, but I like the look of the wrap.
Have you?
The wraps do the wraps do look clean AF. It's true.
Yeah,
they're
the
much
wraps look
cleaner.
sick.
Yeah.
Have you done the usually what I've seen is usually it's like so stickers for one-offs, then it goes to wraps, and then people do the full on. I don't know what it's called, but it's like that digital printing, like Heart Print in Montreal. I think they've actually set up out here, and they do like a digital print on the can as opposed to the plastic wrap. Because I think there was some sort of government issue.
There is, yeah. Well, that's single-use plastics are soon to become
Extinct.
Quebec, this is considered a single-use plastic.
Gotcha.
Right.
So the rumor is that is coming to Ontario. So I know all the major can producers are they're all setting up to start going digital.
Gotcha.
Digital print. So we're actually doing a digital print on a can soon. We're testing it out.
Hell yeah.
And that is going to be the Imperial Porter.
Ooh.
We made
Imperial
once
Porter.
2 years ago. We're going to make another batch of that.
You know what? I checked in my.
Okay.
I think I have one can of that left in my cellar, the Imperial version.
It's got the knight on it.
Yeah, the one from a few years back. Killer. Because I think I drank one. I was like, let me keep one extra for a little bit. Let's sit on that.
That'd be about 3 years
That sounds
old.
like a good move.
It's probably sitting good. Right now. These beers last long. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, the wraps look super clean, and if that's where it's got to go with the printing, then cool. And I mean, it's the same end product.
Yeah, the technology is just
see,
getting to a place where they can do the printing right on the can for small runs. Because before you had to do a printed can, you had to order it through Crown, the largest can producer in North America, if not the world. And you had to order a truckload, which we did for the porter. So we ordered 100,000 cans of porter.
Wow.
Yeah, which we were going through pretty good, and we got through a lot of them, and then so much so we needed another truckload. But then porter sales kind of slowed because Loblaws.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, you can see it's printed. Yeah,
Yeah, it's printed.
On the can, yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course prices went up. You still get, if you do buy the truckload, like it's an amazing deal. You're getting the cans much cheaper, but you need someplace to store 20 pallets of cans.
Right.
That's
a lot of cans.
That's a lot of cans.
A lot of cans, especially for porter.
So is that changed now with, like, I know I saw at the OCB, I saw Heart Print in the exhibition hall, and we did a video with them last year, just talking about sort of printing. Was it last year? No, it was last year. And that was sort of interesting, talking about sort of the evolution of cans and why they're doing their thing. And I know that they were expanding to both Chicago and Ontario from Montreal, because I think they were one of the first to really build it out and be able to do the smaller runs, which is kind of what you were alluding to, was to be able to do that. So I think that maybe more players are going to be in the game doing digital printing.
Oh, there's going to be a lot. It's going to be everywhere very soon. Yeah. Whereas, the printing of the porter cans, that's like offset printing, where they make the plates and they run. I know a bit about this because I worked in printing for 20 years prior to brewing.
Very convenient. No one can rip you off. You'd be like, oh, nice try, buddy. I know how this fucking goes. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clean. Yeah. Do you ever do the stickers for anything, like for a short run? Say if you do like I know when we were talking, you do a lot of a bunch of sort of, like, I don't want to call them core flagship sort of year rounders, but then there's a whole bunch of cool seasonals that you would bust out, whether it's like different IPAs and things like that in different parts of the year, and say the Imperial Porter that you're referring to. Do you ever do stickers for those, or is it sort of more?
The last time comes to mind that we did the stickers was for a collab with Anderson Ales in London.
Mm-hmm.
The Scotch ale.
Big fans.
Yeah, they're an awesome brewery. Gavin Anderson's great dude.
Gavin's a great dude. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a Scotch ale with them that turned out really, really good. We're really happy with. So we did a sticker can for that in a short can.
That's dope.
Yeah.
And so, like, typically, though, you really wouldn't do that. It would always be kind of like the wrapped or
Yeah, well,
potentially printed.
now we made so many different beers that it's like at the time the stickers were kind of like, oh shit, we need a label like right away. So it's easier and faster to do a sticker than it is to do a. But the other thing is you don't want to put the stickers on by hand. So, but we do that sometimes.
That's a lot.
There's some canning companies that will put the stickers on for you. We don't have the setup to put them on in line.
Because it's like a separate little thing with the can.
It's a separate piece of machinery, which is probably a $30,000-$40,000 piece of machinery.
Damn.
That's just another thing that'll constantly break and give you a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's not no money.
No, manufacturing.
Yeah.
God, that's a whole thing.
Which is why I prefer to do sleeves.
Yeah,
because
that makes
the
sense.
sleeves have come down in price. They're cans are still really expensive. Like essentially, like any craft can in a short run, you're looking at like 40 cents for just a can.
Damn, and not to mention all the tax that's Ontario specifically.
Yeah, so like when you see a can that's $4, well, it's like 40, 45 cents could be the can alone, and then another 50 cents tax.
Isn't it more than that? Isn't it like 60 cents times 2 for 2 different types of taxes?
Oh, you're right. I'm only including Ontario. Yeah. I'm not
then there's another one. And then
federal excise.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. Then the manufacturing costs and labor. And then whatever's left. Then you got to sell it to the LCBO for wholesale. And they're going to make a profit too. So then they're going to sell it for a little more. Yeah, it's a whole thing, bro. Yeah. Beer is a wild-ass industry. So to sort of bring this, I feel like we're still going with the story. This is great because we're just getting like slowly cruising through the story. And then, so you found the place. You're like, hell yeah, this is the one. Dealt with the city, all the different things you had to do to get it open. And you opened in 2017?
Yeah, well, dealt with the city. Essentially, I got a zoning verification that said you can open a brewery here. Like, we will allow you to have a brewery at this spot. So then we signed a 5-year lease. And then it was like, okay, now we got to buy a brew house. We got to build a brewery. How the hell do I do that?
Right.
Basically, I've seen a lot of other people do it, so I had a rough idea how to do it. Got to get a cold room, got to get the brew house, got to get the tanks. I already had the manufacturing license. I was already making and selling beer, but making a place where I could make my own beer on site.
Different story.
And it wasn't that hard, but it wasn't that easy either. It was I feel pretty fortunate. It actually came together pretty good. We were able to get open in about 9-10 months, roughly, which
it's not bad.
Is not bad. No, exactly. There was really doing all the plumbing, electrical. Without getting into all that, basically, it was just. Anyone that's gone through it knows everything takes about twice as long as you think it's going to take. But at the end of the day, we got our equipment, we got it set up, and we started brewing in November of 2017. It was like, I think the first batch was Pinball Wizard. We were actually brewing it in Hamilton. I was brewing it on the system. I say I because there were no employees. It was just myself, myself and my father. Then we got the retail license, the tap room. I had some friends helping me out, like in the tap room, but didn't even really have an employee at the time.
Damn.
We were just like basically as I was winging it, figuring it out as I went along, right? And but it all worked out.
That's dope, man. So basically since then and to now, like is there any sort of thoughts on sort of the way the scene has grown and changed since late 2017 to now late 2023? That's like 6 full years of the actual physical business being around. a bunch more breweries have opened in Hamilton. Like I said, I think we're at around 8 now. You must have been in the first 2, 3, 4.
Well, actually, Merritt, Grit and Grit, and Fairweather all opened. I mean, Fairweather opened just about maybe a year before, not even quite a year. Grit and
Okay.
Grit, like 7 or 8 months. And then we opened, uh, yeah, basically, yeah, not that timeline really matters that much, but
Around the same time. So it was sort of like you were a part of the sort of like that big growth spurt of
exactly, yeah.
Hamilton Brews.
That's how to put it. The growth spurt, yes. 2017-18 was when it was just like, wow, like Hamilton has breweries now, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing about like people in Hamilton are amazing. They really support their local businesses, and we got a lot of people in right away that became fast friends and big supporters. A lot of people came, people from the area, like really just blue collar workers, right, who normally didn't even drink craft beer, were like, oh, this isn't bad. I don't mind this. I'm going to start hanging out here, right? And yeah, we just started creating our own little, scene over there.
Pocket
Way
of the
over on
world.
the East End, which we're the only brewery on the east side of Hamilton. All the others open on the west, which, as you know, the
That's
East
a
is a little
point.
bit, the more, I like to think blue collar.
Yeah, industrial zones,
true
working
Hamilton.
class. Yeah. I can see that for sure. And like, I'm just trying to picture it because I've only been here like a year and a bit. So I'm still off the top of my head. It's sort of sometimes hard to picture. Like it's taken a while when you're driving down the street, like, oh, this connects to here. Like I'm still in that phase of my living here to understand where everything kind of comes together. But I'm getting it more and more. And I completely understand it because where I am, you're like 10 minutes from me, but I'm also 10 minutes from Merritt and a little further from the other guys on the west side over there. So it's like there isn't anything else around where you are, which I would say it's in that sort of industrial zone, but there's almost like more potential for more breweries in that whole sort of strip, kind of where you are down, if you go down Barton towards Stony Creek east.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much potential, and like I feel like the city could. There's a lot of what I would love to see more, because basically, like, what like Grain and Grit and Fairweather have on the same, essentially down near the same street. Technically, I mean,
kitty corner, yeah,
exactly. It's like just up the street. I mean, technically, the Fairweather's side of their building is on the same street as Grain and Grit, but the address is the other street. The east side could absolutely, it's one of those strange businesses in beer where you can have multiple ones of the same thing, and it ended up being better because you're like, oh, well, cool, let's spend an afternoon, let's go to Clifford and then X and then X, and you kind of going to all of these different places in one day. So like I feel like the area could absolutely sustain some more businesses in that vein, but yeah, I guess sort of it's a challenging time in history and economically, but also sort of maybe it sounds like the way the city works is a little more challenging as well to.
Well, yeah, to be honest, like 2018, I wouldn't have been surprised if another brewery had opened somewhere on the east side of Hamilton. Like,
right.
I was kind of really surprised for a couple of years. None did really. It was kind of like, and then actually they kind of changed because I told you about kind of the zoning issues. There was the city council voted on, because the LRT is a big thing in Hamilton that's been quite controversial about going in along Main Street. So basically, they changed some zoning where they were going to allow craft breweries were allowed to go in along that stretch, but they also limited the size, but no bigger than 3,000 square feet, or maybe it was 5,000 square feet, which is kind of laughable. That's pretty small. Like we're in a 10,000 square foot building.
Right. So 3,000, you're not going to achieve too much.
But again, it's like, why put a limit on the square footage of the building? It's like,
Yeah, it's absurd. And you were showing me, without going into details, you were showing me another brewery that almost opened sort of, I don't even want to say where, but sort of not too far off from Main Street and stuff. And they had so many troubles with dealing with the city with that. They ended up abandoning that plan and, not going through it, which is a definite shame because that could have led to so many opportunities. And I knew Hamilton because I used to come through on the way to or back from Niagara, going to the wine region, be like, all right, well, let me go check some breweries out on the way home to balance out the palate here. And that was a part of the fun of living in Montreal, coming to Toronto, and then like, hey, I'm gonna go into Niagara. So like there's probably a bunch of people that would pop in, and like there's a lot of potential, I guess, for tourists, for tourism plus locals.
the city has so much potential. Yeah, so much.
It's once again third biggest in Ontario. It's a little absurd that there's cities that are smaller, significantly smaller, with more. And
Yes,
it
no, I
doesn't
do
make a lot
find
of sense.
those. I mean, I know like Cambridge comes to mind. I know like so many breweries opened up in Cambridge. But I know a
Yeah,
lot of breweries are
that's
struggling too, and some have closed because there just isn't. There's not enough market. There's not enough people interested in the beer. In that area.
So then, am I incorrect saying that Hamilton could handle more? Do you think that maybe we're at a saturation point, or at least for this particular point in history, it's a
No, I think Hamilton could absolutely handle more.
okay?
I'm not encouraging it, but it could.
It could maybe when you say not encouraging it, is that from a like, hey, I don't want you to have to go through the fuckery, or is it more like,
I was kind of half joking,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm curious.
but I don't want that either. No.
No, because like how people are with breweries, right? Like you want to make it's an excuse. If you could go to an area and spend a whole afternoon to an evening going between 2 or 3 breweries, people would do that. And it's just the nature of beer fans for the most part. There's different types of beer consumers, but a lot of people like to do little crawl. But hey, man, it's Saturday. Let's go at noon to this place, and then at 2 p.m. we'll go here, and then 4 p.m. we'll go here. And you make this whole little rounds, and you've gone and supported a bunch of different breweries and bought beers and to-go beers and merch, and there's a whole bunch of just
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a big tourism driver.
yeah.
For sure.
Enough people recognize that it's things are changing. I think.
Yeah. It's either way though, it seems like a real being here now, for a year and a bit, and it feels like a super positive place to be, and I feel like people are very proud. I think that's something you and I were talking. It reminds me of Quebec a little bit. There's an element of pride, local pride, that I haven't seen everywhere in Ontario, and I feel like Quebec. Nate, you know very well this as well, but I feel like Quebec fucking loves Quebec shit, and I love that they love that. And it's sort of this cool little thing that you can go and people are very excited to tell you about all the stuff that they have. And I feel like the smaller towns, and particularly Hamilton, whilst it's not a town, it's a city, and once again, third biggest, people have that little cool, vibe about
Local pride.
local pride, man. They're like, yo, oh, you coming to my town? And now, what's interesting, because I'm having people come and visit us. I finally have a place for people to stay here. People come through in town, I'm like, let me take you around. This is dope. And I feel like people front a little bit because they don't, they go to Toronto and we're like outside of Toronto. They want to come see us. Like, I'm coming to Toronto. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to Hamilton an hour. I'm like, nah, trust me, fam. Like, it's lit. Come through. Like, there's so much great stuff here. That's just one day. You could spend a day zipping around all the different breweries. Like, sweet. Then you can go to Niagara. Like, there's just so much, like, out here in this way. There's so much stuff to offer, I think. A city like this is so, like, it's growing, and all the people who can't afford Toronto anymore because that city's out of its fucking mind are coming out to Hamilton. And places like that to be able to have a more affordable lifestyle and stuff, but have all of the same amenities that a larger city has with less traffic. Great coffee, great beer, great food, great wine, great shopping, all the things you need are here. I thought I would have to go to Toronto every week. We go once a month. And to see people, not to go and like, oh, I need the stuff that I can't get in Hamilton. Like, I feel like I can get everything I need here, which is It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Fucking Hammer Town.
Preach.
When are you moving here?
Nate, what's going on? Nate, I mean, look, Nate's from Burlington, just to be clear.
No, it's
Okay.
true. It's
I
true.
forgot about
My parents still live in Burlington.
I saw them on the weekend.
And I'm there pretty frequently.
Okay.
Over Christmas. Nate's going to be here over Christmas, so we're going to do a
It's
little
true.
run.
Awesome. We'll see you
no,
at the
it's...
brewery.
Oh, yeah, Nathaniel's
Absolutely.
coming through. He wants
Absolutely.
He wants that Dark Streets of London on tap. He's just like,
I
fuck
do.
yeah.
I do.
He wants that Nitro Porter on a Nitro tap. Are you going to get a Nitro? Would you do that? Like a Nitro tap or something like that at the brewery to do something like that?
Oh yeah, we've done it for years. Yeah.
You have the
Oh,
Nitro.
We
Oh,
had it on tap years ago. Yeah, and then we had it again recently. And
Yeah.
okay. That's cool. Because I remember when we were hanging out, you were like, I saw the Nitro Porter. You're like, oh, that's a can. I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't realize that you had the tap. Okay, that's sick.
yeah, we sporadically have it on Nitro Tap. I just got to get around to switching over the tap.
Mm.
I feel like that is such a dope.
Oh,
I
that's
feel,
dope.
it's so money for a brewery that specializes in kind of mostly or a lot of British style beers. Like, even imagine Dark Streets on Nitro. Get
Yeah.
out of town.
Oh,
Actually, I've been
I would
meaning
line-
to try that.
I would
yeah.
line up for that. I would
Oh.
line up for that.
Dude, that would be spectacular. I feel like if you did like a Nitro version of that, like the porter make complete sense, and it's a glorious beer, and it's phenomenal. Even like arguably it's different, but arguably better even on the Nitro. It's just such a fun experience. And then if you can do like an ESB on Nitro, just to really deliver that kind of like super smooth, creamy, toffee caramel. Oof, get out of town. Let's go. Yeah, man. Beautiful. So then what's the, like, moving forward, what's the sort of like the move from here? Like, obviously there's a lot of you got some great LCBO SKUs going on. You've got a lot of core beers that are very popular that people always come into. You got a lot of seasonals that people come through for. Is there anything kind of like that you're introducing in that maybe 2024, being that it's like late November 2023 here? Is there anything coming into next year that folks can look forward to that maybe it's new, different?
Yeah, good question. Well, we get asked a lot, just like a lot of the beers we make.
Hey,
like
when
the
are you bringing that back?
IPAs, Broke Down Palette is really popular. That's my kind of play on the Grateful Dead Broke Down Palace with an East Hamilton twist.
I like that.
Yeah, but we get asked all the time, like, hey, when is that beer coming back? So that beer is coming back soon. Valhalla IPA we're about to do again.
We drank that from the tank, and that was just a murky orange, like yellow milk, little gloriousness.
The Vike
Nice.
IPA, because I know we've only talked about porters and ESBs and English beers and lagers, but I think we make some pretty decent IPAs too.
Nice.
We'll try the Artificial Paradise, which that
do it?
batch turned out really nice.
I think we should do
Yeah,
it.
why don't we crack that one and to
Bring it home. Bring it on home.
So, I've always got ideas for new things. I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of maybe a little spur of the moment. I kind of just do things like I get an idea and then I talk to Greg, say, hey, let's make a label for this. And then we make a beer. And most of the time it turns out pretty good.
Then that's what's up. That works.
That's a good system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This do you have that one there, Artificial Paradise?
I do, yes.
Now this is a 6.8% IPA with Citra, Simcoe, and Galaxy. Would you call this New England? I mean, it's looking to me, if I was to hazard a guess, I would say this is New England style.
Yeah, well, basically it is. We don't label it as a hazy IPA because every time we do that, then it clears. But essentially might as well be a hazy, and it's a hybrid basically of a West Coast and an East Coast.
Okay. And what was the difference? I mean, what was the West and what was is I guess East Coast hops?
Yeah, well, basically, actually, the yeast is the East Coast because we do use Vermont yeast.
Okay.
Okay.
Kind of softer Vermont, but then we're hopping it with the Simcoe, Galaxy, and Citra,
Gotcha.
which are pretty much all Whirlpool hops.
It does look pretty East Coast.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. Like, it's pretty hazy. I definitely have not had this one before.
You know, it's holding up really good because these are the last cans of this batch, which was packaged around the beginning of September.
Okay, that's not bad. So it's like 2 months.
Yeah,
What's
it's a 2-month mark.
what's your general? What would you say is like your that a beer like this would sort of like sit pretty nice for? Because I know once again every every brewery, every beer is different.
Yeah, basically, like we want to sell through an IPA in a couple months, which is why we only have usually one or two, usually one really at a time going. So then as soon as this one's done, then we release another one. So we got about 4 or 5 that we rotate through now.
Gotcha.
Artificial Paradise, the Valhalla Kveik IPA, the Broke Down Palate Hazy IPA, which is essentially a double IPA.
Mm-hmm.
My old favorite double wide, that's the West Coast IPA.
Hell
Which is
yeah!
actually my homebrew beers. That
You're
I
speaking
brewed
our language there.
The what's it?
I said you're speaking our language there.
Oh yeah, me and
yeah.
Nate are huge West Coast fans.
Yeah. So that beer, quick little history there. Actually, I brewed when I was a home brewer. I did what they call a Pro-Am beer with BAOS back in 2011, actually, I think. And that was the double wide IPA.
Okay, did you win like
double IPA?
Was that when did you win like one of the homebrew contests or something like that?
That's what it was. Yes.
Okay, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And how did that one go? Did that get a commercial release?
It did, yeah. That's back when BAOS actually was pretty small. I went up there. I remember my father came with me, and we had a great time. That's where I got to know Steve and Matt pretty well. And they were only a 20-hectare brew house, just a tiny little brewery. Tiny by my standards now.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean,
that's
like,
back when they were rocking the 20-hectare brew house and had like about 8 tanks. And yeah, we did double wide, which was a really fun beer to make. And then 10 years later, I decided, it's time to make it again, make it at my own brewery.
And how did that go with your version?
Good.
Yeah.
I dug out the old BAOS recipe and we just tried to brew it again.
Hell yeah.
I actually took out the BAOS one and like, oh, okay.
This is great, man. This is like, I see what you mean, East meets West, because I'm definitely getting a lot of bitterness in here. There's more piney and dank bitterness than like that pithiness that was kind of more in the Pinball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super dry. Yeah. Sweet and tropical. Super juicy. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's great. I wish you could have had it when it was like a few weeks after canning. It was delicious. It still is delicious.
With this kind of hop bill, I'm betting it was probably a bit punchier at at a couple of weeks fresh, but it's still tasting pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, it's a nice beer. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say like this is like combination. Like holding up super well, man. Like this is like going hard. This is great. I appreciate like an East meets West kind of situation. I feel like it's not the most common thing in the world, but when it sort of like if you can sort of marry all of the different things, it's yeah, it's definitely a fun thing to do, and I feel like it's not as common as it kind of used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is great, but now this is good because I feel like now, like even if you look at these different beers, I feel like we've got a lot of the English, like a couple English, like the porter and the ESB, then like a lager, ISL, APA, and then now like a kind of East meets West to IPA. So a bit of like a pretty strong snapshot of what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
It's like this I feel like pretty well represents what you guys are all about. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, coming in to say, like, is there any sort of like, I know, like, you will talk about like different seasons. Once this one wraps up, then there's going to be another IPA, the Kvaik, which I did try, and it was fantastic, like a real hazy Kvaik IPA, but it doesn't really. It was like it's more just like hazy. It was so hazy. It was so murky, which is great, super juicy, wicked buddy.
It hadn't been like fully cold crashed yet. Then a lot of those hops will drop out. And then the Valhalla, we have a lot of Eldorado, Citron Eldorado mainly in that one.
Which is great, though.
You get a lot of pineapple. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Which is dope. Is there anything, like, that's coming next year that people should be aware of?
Oh. I don't know.
That means, hey, that means they got to stay tuned and see what's happening. No, man, this is great. Was there anything else we want to make sure that we got in tonight? We're sitting there, we're coming, 2 hours 40, 2 hours, something like that, a little over. Was there anything else we want to make sure that we got in to touch on this evening, fellas?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't mind talking quickly about our brewery of the year and a few things like that.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Let's go.
It.
So is this at the Canada Beer Cup?
Quick piss stuff,
Okay, you know what? Let's take a pause. We can take a piss. We'll be back in a second. Oh, yeah, we are back. So, Mr. Clifford, 2024, what should people look out for? What are you going for? What's the vibes? What's exciting? What are you excited for personally?
Yeah. I love these kind of questions.
All right.
Well, yeah, I'm just excited. The brewery, we've been on an upward trajectory pretty much since we opened, and feel very fortunate for that. And I mean, that's largely just based on, making beer that I love, but I know all the other employees too love. They love to make it, love to drink it. Our patrons do. I don't know what I'm getting at, other than basically, we're just doing our thing, right? And people that want to come and join in on it, that's really cool. Everyone's welcome, right? The more the merrier. And then we do a lot of live music at the brewery. So
I was about to say, you got the cool stage.
Yeah, because actually a lot of I'm kind of an old musician myself. I used to play drums, and my brother, he does sound at the brewery, and again, kind of a family thing. And basically, a lot of the employees there are all musicians that play at the brewery time to time, and we book a lot of bands, and there's a lot of arts community. Just we're just kind of doing our thing, right? And the more people that get in on it, the better.
Hell yeah, man! No, it's like it's a big space yet welcoming, and it's cool. I'd love to see. I want to come down for when there's a show. Funnily enough, my barber is in a band, and he was playing there. His name is Joel. He's a Stipley's barber on.
I know
King.
Exactly. I know who Joe is.
You know Joel? Joel's the man.
He's a friend of Jesse's. Yeah, he
Jesse
might even play his band.
Does Jesse work at Long and McQuaid?
No, that's Steve.
Okay, so he's the guy who sold me these microphones, and when he
Steve,
showed me the photos, I was like, "That's the fucking guy who sold me." I didn't know. And Joel's wife is Anne, and Anne started the first third wave cafe called the Cannon in Hamilton. It was the very, very first. So she had the can and then she sold it. So it's really cool just to see all the sort of like connections. I remember sort of in the summer, he was like, yeah, he's in multiple different bands. He was telling me that he was doing the first gig for a particular band at Clifford. I was like, oh, sick, I got to get down there. And that was kind of what like nudged me. I was like, oh man, I have to fucking get my ass down there. And it's very cool. Like it's a cool venue. It's like super, like it feels like it'd be a fun one when the place is packed, everyone's drinking, there's a band playing, like it's a good time.
Yeah, exactly. The place is packed, and yeah, like we do, like, you know, Americana, like old school rock, country, blues, punk rock. Yeah, it's a good mix, right? Basically, just music that, you know, we all like, obviously, but that's kind of the vibe of the place, right?
Very cool, man. Yeah, I mean it goes with the style of the products as well.
Yeah,
Kind of
exactly.
blends in.
So yeah, it's a little community basically.
That's very dope, man. Love to see it. It's very, very cool. Once again, you know, I'm just happy to see breweries from the town that I moved to are slaying it, and people are loving it, and I'm happy to discover it. And like, you know, the beers tonight were exceptional. Like, you know, like my favorite, like the lager, the porter, and the ESB. Personally, I just exceptional products, like truly exceptional products. Everything is. This is my personal faves. I imagine Nate, you have some faves as well.
No, those are exact my three faves as well.
Yeah, I think your Devil's Punch Bowl is great, and then the hoppy beers are great as well. It's just there's something about that goddamn porter and the ESB specifically. Those two, the darker beers, they're just, I don't know, they're just exactly where they need to be. And Nate and I both have a bunch of empty glasses next to us from this. So this is really cool, man. Like we really appreciate your time and hanging out and sort of, you know, breaking it all down, man, and telling us what you guys are doing. It's a beautiful thing. I'm very, very happy for you. You deserve all the success. You put in the work from the beginning, and I hope that, you know, if maybe there's some aspiring brewers who are watching or listening and seeing someone like Brad, this is what he had to do. You had to go and, you know, work with different companies and come up with these really creative ways to get experience, to get involved in beer. You know, I love it. I think it's just really cool, and I don't know how common it is to do all that, the stuff that you did to sort of, you know, get to where you're at. And I think it sort of shows in where you're at right now and the level of success and passion that people have here for and beyond Hamilton, of course. But you know, the what people have for your product, and obviously the porter is one of the most awarded beers in the whole country, and it's spectacular for, you know, for a very, very, very good reason. So everything is much deserved. You've worked for it. The shit is fire, bro. Congrats. It's very, very cool.
I appreciate it.
Bravo, sir.
Yes, get that in there.
Yeah.
And with that said, Uncle Bradley, where can everybody find Clifford online and in real life?
You can order online through our website.
What is that?
CliffordBrewing.com.
Let's fucking go. Anywhere in Ontario, anywhere.
Almost anywhere.
Almost anywhere. Brad will personally deliver it to Thunder Bay. He will drive.
I'm only joking because, you know, we said Ontario wide, but there are some parts of Ontario that are hard to reach. We do our best. Our shipping company does our best, but
right.
Almost anywhere.
Almost anywhere.
Disclaimer. Yeah.
And what is it? Is it at Clifford Brewing on Instagram, Facebook, all that?
Yeah, CliffordBrewing.com on Instagram, Clifford Brewing on Twitter, on Facebook, and that's
perfect. So you can go. People can go order. Hey man, it's all good.
What time is it?
It's past everyone except my bedtime.
Almost midnight.
Yeah, 11:30. Yep. It's everybody. This is me. This is like dinner time. Let's go. So we're gonna take a screenshot. Do you guys want to hold up some cans?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna grab. Let me get that motherfucking Nitro Porter right here. Ooh, let me get that Dark Streets. Yeah, let's go. Ooh, ding ding. Oh,
Face.
wait.
Ding ding, motherfucker.
I didn't mean to. I was dinging it against glassware. Here we go. All right, everybody. Gorgeous. Brad, stick around. We're just going to wrap this up, and then we'll finish up off air. But thank you again. This has been such a great conversation. Really appreciate it. This is a lot of fun, man. Shooting the shit, crushing these
Really
beers.
a genuine pleasure.
Truly,
yeah.
man.
No, it has. It's been awesome. Yeah.
I knew it was going to be good. Hanging out the other day, it was like, oh, we just ended up randomly there for like 3 hours. I was like, oh, this is going to be. I forgot to tell Nate. I was like, it's going to be a long pod, man. This guy's cool as shit.
Yeah.
So really appreciate you, man. Like it's very, very cool. Nathaniel, where can everyone find you online, sir?
You can find me everywhere on all the platforms at NathanDoesBeer and right here at BAOS Podcast.
Yeah, goddamn right, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the fummies, hit that sub right there, hit that notification bell.
Ding.
So you can know when all the new episodes drop. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. And check out the long form audio so you can hear attractive motherfuckers like Bradley Clifford talk about craft. My brother's name's Bradley, so I call him Bradley all the time.
Actually, a little disclaimer. My name is actually Bradford.
Bradford?
Oh.
Bradford.
God damn.
Wait.
Hey.
That has been revealed here tonight to those who made it to the end of this podcast.
Oh, wow. That is phenomenal news. I grew up, my younger brother is Bradley. So my assumption and ignorantly assumed that there wasn't other versions of Bradford is, I enjoy that name. I feel like that's strong. That's a strong name.
You know what? Now we get to say that there's an Easter egg if you listen all the way to the end.
I think we're going to put that in the description. And I feel like don't ever.
But most people don't know that either. Only my close friends and family know that.
You know what I would suggest to you, and you can. Bradford. Okay, so I would say if I was you, I would introduce myself as Bradford. Hey, how you going, Bradford Clifford? How are you? Because there's a double. No, you got. Do you know what the funniest thing in the world? When I first moved to Toronto, I met this dude, and I saw him do it to a real person in real life, and he was like, "Hey, Don, Carl Patrick Brown, how are you?" He said his whole middle name.
Oh yeah.
His first, middle, and last name to meet somebody, and I was talking to my girlfriend about it like yesterday. I think and this was like 12, 13 years ago, and I still think about it. Imagine going up to someone you just met and you give them your first, middle, and last name. That is so fucking funny. So like, say, Bradford Clifford, how are you? I run a brewery in Hamilton. How are you? I don't know. It's just like, it's fucking hilarious to me. There's like
Bradford John Clifford.
There you go. So see, here's the thing. If you managed to listen all the way through this episode, you can consider yourself a close personal friend of Bradford Clifford.
He's going to add you to the close friends on Instagram when he sends you stories. Bradford, dude, I'm telling you, there's a flex in that of saying the full name. You let me call you Bradley for damn near 3 hours, dude.
Oh my god!
I let everyone call me Bradley.
Oh, I thought we were cool. I thought we'd spend enough time that you would tell me about Bradford.
I actually like Uncle Bradley.
Do you like that? Because I feel like I call people uncle. I call my younger brother Uncle Bradley too. It's it's
he calls me Uncle Nate all the time, and I'm like 5 years younger than him.
Yeah, I find it. There's something amusing about it, they're calling people uncle. I like it, and I feel like it's respectful, and no one's ever mad at being called uncle. Like, oh, someone called me that? Like,
oh no,
fuck yeah, bro. You are. I wish I was an uncle. I know you are, Nate. I wish I was an uncle. I have my brother has a turtle, a tortoise. Am I a tortoise uncle? That's as good as it gets for me. This is the best Easter egg ever, Bradford. Fuck, that is gangster. I love it. Go into Clifford and ask for Bradford. Tell him BAOS sent you. Okay? And then get a pour of the porter and then tip well. and enjoy
Yes.
that shit and enjoy the show. And on that note, I don't even remember where I was and everything, but nothing else matters now. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.